Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How you doing? Welcome to the show. I am your host, Coach Renz, and welcome to Deconstructing Christianity, where today we're going to do a continuation on a video that I did yesterday, where I talked about the Ethiopian Bible. And the biggest question is, if the Ethiopian Bible is the oldest Bible, it's the old African, it wasn't controlled by the Europeans, then why aren't Black people, Black Americans, why aren't y'all becoming Eastern Orthodox? So that's the question. That's the conversation we're going to have today. And is it true? Is it the oldest Bible? Is it the oldest Bible? Is it correct? Does it even matter? Right? Are the stories about Ethiopia that the Bible speaks about, are they true? Do they have any validity? It's the conversation for today. But before we get started, I always want to thank everybody who supports the channel, whether you give gifts, whether you do super chats, whether you are a member, subscription holder, subscriber, whether you like the channel, thumbs up, channel validation. No matter what your situation is, however you support the channel, I greatly appreciate it. For those who are looking forward to, we had a great meet and greet this year in October 31st. We had a great one. We're going to have another one next year. This one's going to be on a cruise. We're taking a cruise out of New Orleans. October 31st out of New Orleans. I think it's October 31st, the Carnival Ship Valor. You can go on my Facebook page. You'll find that one. On tomorrow, I will be on Truth Wanted, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Central Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. I will be on Truth Wanted. I look forward to you guys being there to support. This is only on the YouTube, and it's a call-in show. So it's Truth Wanted. It's the largest atheist network in the world. So I look forward to being on their show tomorrow on Truth Wanted. It's going to be a great time. It's going to be a great time being on full Lorenzo. Full Coach Renz is coming out. So that'll be tomorrow at 7 p.m. Truth Wanted. I will be on that show at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time frame. On the 14th, I'm having a seminar, 9 businesses you need to start in 2026. If you go into the description of this video, you will see the link for it. Matter of fact, I'll make it the first comment on Facebook and YouTube. That way, it'll be easy for people who see it now will actually be able to know it. All right, then. So I look forward to having that seminar. Hey, look, ain't nobody listening to you if you broke. Don't nobody want to be with you if you broke. Get your shit together. Let's get it together, people. Let's get it together. All right. So today, the conversation, make sure I got all my mics. I didn't even check the microphone on this one today. Usually I check the mic before I get started. And I certainly forgot to check this one today. All right, it is what it is. So today our conversation is going to be around talking about the Ethiopian Bible. This is one of those things that at least once, twice, 3 times a week, I get somebody who will come up and say, well, Christianity was in Africa before it was, before the slaves, before the Europeans brought it over. And so our true religion is Christianity. It's really an African book. It's an African religion. They'll start saying things like, the Europeans stole Christianity, and then so the Christianity brought to us is the wrong kind of Christianity, all that sort of thing. We got to get back to the true Christianity was in Africa. And then I always ask them, do you practice the Ethiopian Eastern Orthodox or the Tawuda, I say that name wrong, version of Christianity? And every time the answer is no. Every time they try to obfuscate and go into this, that, and the third, they don't took it from us. And no. You can practice Ethiopian Christianity. There's plenty of Ethiopian Christian churches in America. There's no excuse for you not to practice Ethiopian version of Christianity. You can practice it. So why aren't you doing it? It's always my question to them. And they always got some big bullshit lie because they know that they would then have to convert over to the Ethiopian culture. They have to become part of the Ethiopian culture. And that's the part they don't want to do. They like the American culture. They love their American culture. They don't want to start doing the Ethiopian culture. They want to do the American culture. They want to do the American culture, you know. So invariably, anytime anyone comes up and they try to argue this point, they're always going to find themselves at a loss because they would like to make the claims because all they're really saying is, I hate white people. That's all they're saying. Or maybe not modern day, but I don't like past white people. I hate all of them. So I got to blame my whole life and everything that's going bad in my life on them, you know. So, you know. I'm sorry, because somebody posted a name that I actually I follow their page. But Wode Maya on YouTube just visited Ethiopia and claimed the mountain to the highest church and climbed the mountain to the highest church. It's painted on the walls that saints brought Christianity to Ethiopia. Yeah, they actually claim nine saints that they claim that brought Christianity to Ethiopia. But the question that we're going to answer today, which that's actually a good lead in. One of the questions that we're going to answer today is the fact that where did these 9 saints come from? Where did these 9 saints learn their Christianity from? Primarily, the number one saint that they talk about is Grimma. Yeah, some shit like that. I can be messing up. Y'all know I'm gonna mess up some names. Let me look at his name again so I think I still might have that page open. So maybe I say the name right. Garima. Garima. It's Garima. That's how I think that's how it's pronounced, Garma. So the one that is the most highly touted, which is Garma, he supposedly was able in a 24-hour time frame create a complete copy of the Ethiopian Bible in and around 500 CE. Right. So one of the oldest actually surviving texts, and it's not the whole text itself. It's only about 4 gospels, and then it's illustrated. But he supposedly copied it in 24 hours. That goes back to about 500, 400 BC. I mean CE. This text is not a complete Bible. It's not a complete total Bible as what we would call a total Bible today. But this dude, Gramarima, he not Ethiopian. No. There's there's 2 different places that is theorized that he was born. He was either born in Egypt or he was born in Constantinople. You can take your pick. I couldn't find where there's a consensus of where he was born, but certainly he was not born in Ethiopia. So it's not like he was some type of saint that received his road on Damascus type of event. But obviously he had learned Christianity either in Egypt or in Constantinople, meaning that even though he came down and supposedly copied the Ethiopian Bible that they had supposedly had written around 330, he was copying it from a Roman perspective because he still would have been coming from what was the remnants of the Roman Empire at the time frame. You still would have had the Byzantine Roman Empire in 500 in and around. So Constantinople will make sense, which they were still in control of Egypt at that time frame. So therefore, he is still, no matter how you shake the stick, coming from a Roman perspective to copy what the Ethiopians supposedly had gained in around 300, around 300, 330, around 330 BC, 330 CE. Now, here's the thing about them getting it in 330. Who did they get it from? Most of you already know the story. You had Fermentius, who was a bishop coming out, priest coming out of Alexandria, Egypt. His boat crashed onto the land of the Aksum Empire. When his boat crashed, he then first was enslaved and then he was set free. Then he went back to Egypt. Then he asked Athanasius, can I go back down there and teach them Christianity? Because the king, he's interested in Christianity, because the king's interest, now Ezana's interest was based on having better relationship with Rome, because for trade purposes, because Rome was going through right past Axium, the coast of Axium, on their route to India to trade and trading around the Arabian Peninsula. So he comes back. He teaches King Ezana. He teaches some of the royal court. And then they go out and start pushing. And then Christianity becomes the state religion of Ethiopia. And then the push begins to force everyone else in Ethiopia to become Christian. But it becomes a state religion in 330. Athanasius, and see, you got to look at from grandfather to son to grandfather to father to son is how I'm gonna phrase this. Athanasius being the grandfather, who taught Fermentius being the father, who taught Ezana being the son. If you put it in generational format, right? Not in framework of authority, just in generational format. Athanasius was one of the was the bishop of the Orthodox Christianity in Alexandria, Egypt. Athanasius was the one that was appointed at the Council of Nicaea to make sure that all the other Orthodox Christians celebrated Christmas and Easter at the same time. Right. Athanasius was the one who kept presenting what books should be the canon of the Roman Church. So Athanasius is the one who gave authority to Fermentius to go down to Ethiopia to teach Christianity and convert the king. So therefore, the version of Christianity that came into Ethiopia has a lot of similarities to the type that becomes the Roman Catholic Church. The only difference is that they have received additional writings. They had other writings. They had more than just the Septuagint. There was no canonized Bible in 300. There was no canonized Bible in 330. I mean, you had, well, let me rephrase that. The Armenians had canonized their own Bible, had determined themselves to be a Christian nation in 301. But as far as the wait a minute. My little thing fell off the table. So some things got unplugged for a second there. But what I was saying is that there was no in the greater Christian community that was I keep messing this up. And we're back. Now, I put the little adapter on the desk and it was teetering and it fell off the damn desk. So, yeah, my bad. And then, because it fell, then, the plugs got all janky and shit. So, my bad. I'm going to leave it hanging where it was at before. And we can continue. So I think where I left off was saying that where the hell did I left go? I know I was talking about the fact that I know I was where was I in my little script? I don't have a script, but I just act like I got one. So basically, Frumentius was teaching them the Roman version of Christianity, what will become a Roman version of Christianity, but they did have access to other writings. So like the Book of Enoch was very popular in and around that time frame, so they had access to that. They had access to the books of Tobit and all these other books. The Septuagint, they had access to the Septuagint. They also had access to the Valentinus. So this gave them access to a lot of different additional books that wound up not making it into the Roman canon, but it still made it into their canon because they weren't under the Roman Church. Although they were taught by people who would become leaders of the Roman Church. So as someone mentioned earlier on YouTube, all roads still leads back to Rome. When you divinely autistic said that all roads leads back to Rome. This is very, very true. They all do lead right back to Rome and right back to the version of similar version of Christianity that you have today. It would be great to talk to a person of this religion someday. One day we'll get that. We'll make that happen. But in the meantime, in between time, they like to claim that it's the oldest Bible. Now, what they're claiming as the oldest complete version of the Ethiopian Bible that is written in Ge'ez, it dates to in around between the 14th and the 15th century, meaning that it is dating at a time frame that you have so many other codexes prior to that. You have so many other scrolls or pieces of different Bibles that don't exist in its complete form anymore prior to that. So it's not some major claim that you got something that's halfway between our time today and the time of the Jesus event supposedly happened. Right? So it's like stuck right in the middle. It's not a really valid point to hold on to, not in my opinion. Not in my opinion. And it wouldn't be historically either, because what does it prove? The fact that you have a book, complete book in the 15th century, 16th century, what does that, how does that prove anything that occurred in the first century? Even if it was an exact copy of what they had in 330, what would that still prove? It still wouldn't prove anything. But no, it's not the oldest. The Septuagint and the Valentinus is older than that, right? It's oldest illustrated version of the Bible. It's quite astonishing with the illustrations. The fact that somebody did all those illustrations, that's amazing. But oldest, no. And so even though it's even though it's up there, it's up there. It's one of the, but not the oldest. It will be, my question is, why aren't Black people becoming Eastern Orthodox Christians? Why aren't they following this religion? Since the ones who are Christian, the ones who still want to maintain, in the same way that you got the Hebrew Israelites running around with their Power Ranger suits on. Where are all the ones trying to be Ethiopian? Where are the ones who are following this Ethiopian book? You can't claim those followers of Haile Selassie to be that because, that's the Rastafari. But even if you did, why aren't they all becoming Rastafari? That's closer than still following the Protestant versions of Christianity that they all still follow. It's all still following these Protestant versions of Christianity. So why are they following that? Instead of following, this so-called version of it. I gotta stop clicking buttons today. I see that already. Let me stop clicking buttons. But that's what they should be following. Because I was looking over. Oh, God. I'm hitting the wrong button. I ain't had my cigar yet. I ain't started on the cigar. That's why I'm clicking all the wrong buttons. That's why I'm clicking all the wrong buttons. I'm currently celebrating with a Rastafari. Yeah, I don't doubt it. It's probably the most peaceful celebration that people can have. All right. So if you wanted to join in the conversation other than just text, I just posted that on YouTube and Facebook. He was an Israelite, my brother. He was tan. What does that don't mean shit. That has nothing to do with nothing. Who cares? I don't care. What does it matter that he was tan? Oh, he was tan.
Go Power Rangers, new Mighty Morphin Hebrew Rangers. I'll let you compose yourself. I got a report, man. I've been kicked out of about 5, 6, maybe 7 chats by loving Christians that are not able to provide a firsthand account testimony of Jesus Christ ever existing in all of history. It's very sad, and it saddens me. But I was in a chat where I watched a melanated woman advocate for slavery.
Mm-hmm. They advocated for slavery?
Advocated for slavery, said it was a great idea, different in the Bible. It was different than the transatlantic slave trade, because it was they could be redeemed, which is really kind of funny because these Christians run around talking about redeemed or the redemption process. Correct me if I'm wrong. The redemption process is literally specifically for slaves to be bought out of slavery.
Yeah. To be bought out of slavery. Exactly.
So anytime that they are redeemed, they in fact are saying that they are slaves. Now they will say slave to sin, but if we use sin in its proper context to the time, it was not anything but an archery term. And context is important. Today, it means something else because we have built bridges, right? We built bridges in our language. That's why if you look at an unabridged dictionary, the definitions are a little bit different. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, they would be. But let me actually go back to something that you said. Okay. Redeem also means to buy. So it's not just buying them out of slavery, but you can buy someone into slavery as well.
So you're putting them into slavery at the same time because you are then therefore their owner.
You're being bought. There's
right.
that later on in Exodus, when they realized that the Israelites were told by God that they can practice child sacrifice, that they are to practice child sacrifice, then later authors then write in Exodus that know they will be redeemed by the number of Levitical priests. And if you don't have enough Levitical priests, then you will redeem them by paying money. So redeeming is just buying.
Okay, so God needs money too. That's the other part. God needs your money. So go ahead and put the plate out and God will bless you for the $1,000.
Yeah. You got to get that money.
God, the all-powerful creator of the universe, needs the American fiat system to continue his work.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's one of the things that the Power Rangers hinge on is that Deuteronomy 28:68 or Deuteronomy 68:28, whichever way it goes. I think it's 28:68, where it says that they will be sell away on ships, and they will try to sell themselves as slaves, but no one would be there to redeem them. And so they try to take the redemption, meaning that God will not redeem them, instead of what it literally means is that no one will want to buy them as slaves. You know that in the transatlantic slave trade, there was plenty of buyers.
And there was also the reverse buyers, because when those ships went back, we know through history that they also carried slaves back across the water. So, and those were indigenous Americans.
People don't think about that. The slave trade was much more comprehensive than just bringing African slaves to the Caribbean and the Americas. They also transported slaves from the Americas to Europe.
Yeah.
And one of the things that many people don't realize is that they transported slaves from India to Africa.
Yes. And also from India to America, or the Americas. It wasn't very prominent, but it did happen. Absolutely.
Right, it did happen. There's a few there, but yeah, it wasn't as big.
Hey, let's be honest. What trucker or sailor is going to deadhead a ship? Meaning to carry a ship across the water without any cargo to gain no monetary gain.
It would be bad for business.
It'd be a bad business altogether, and they would probably have their ship removed.
Exactly.
You know, hence why piracy was so guarded against, because if you came with an empty ship, you got no money. Now, let's discuss who was in charge of the slave trade for the most part during, you know, the olden times. Because I do believe Christopher Columbus, you know, actually, let me digress from that comment. If you read in history, it says that Queen Elizabeth sold her jewels, right? But was that really that she sold her jewels, or was it her Jews? Because that was definitely along the time during this wonderful time of Christian love, where the Catholic churches went out and they raped, murdered, pillaged everybody in all of Europe to spread the gospel, of course, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that the Moorish Empire, if I remember correctly, fell in Spain in the spring of what was it? Oh, wait, it was it the same year that the Spanish started the Christian? What? And the Inquisition was implemented, and all of the Jews were running. Now, Jews took on many, many different names at that point in time, did they not?
I don't know.
Yes, they did. Yes. Such as the Huguenots. Huguenots were Jews and Moors. You know, and if you really look at this slave trade, it was the three major Abrahamic religions that were the only prominent proponents of this.
Oh, yeah, definitely that.
As a whole. And they worked in tandem, much like Democrats and Republicans work together in tandem today.
100% agreed.
In fact, that's actually why when this is some interesting. I'll drop this and I'll be done.
Okay, because we're getting way, like, the subject matter was over here and we way over there.
Yeah, but it all applies. But I'll drop this one little bit. So Ashkenaz, a descendant of Gomer, not Shem, converted to Judaism for the meanings of commerce. And if you look at where he was from, Well, that's the Silk Road. So there's your answer to the whole concept. And when you go to the oldest of Black Christians in Africa, there's no evidence that it was specifically Christianity. It's just old paintings of something that resembles the ideology of Christianity. However, that logos goes back much further than Christianity's. And if you want to claim it's Christianity, that's fine. I need to see proof of that claim. And I'll end with that.
I agree. And I'll let you end with that one because I'm not going off subject.
I got back to it. Simmered down.
What? Bye.
Much love, brother.
Appreciate you.
And remember, go Power Rangers. My mighty Morphin Hebrew Rangers. And they are morphin. Peace out.
Peace out. Oh, man. Papa Lance, all you have, just hit me up on the email. We'll make the arrangements and get you some cigars. I'm gonna get to you in just a second, IG. I know you don't have a lot of time. I don't want to miss. There's a couple of comments that I saw that I want to give a really quick answer to. Maybe I didn't see them. Your argument has been debunked by the Nation of Islam, and the Hebrew Israelites have been debunked. Yeah, that means nothing. I need more information on that. I don't know. Fuck it. What up, IG? Unmute your mic.
What's up, brother? What's up? Look, today, look, hold on, let me come to cam. I'm actually at my apartment today. You know what I'm saying? Ain't that some
Not at
shit?
work.
No, I'm not at work, you know what I'm saying? But I'm so glad you brought up this subject. Because a lot of people always try to go to, Black Americanized Christians always try to go talk about the Ethiopian Coptic Bible. And I'm glad for you pointing out how that's not even the oldest document. And I said, okay, even with that being said, we forget the history of Ethiopia. Ethiopia was one of the first Northeast continent countries to start colonialism in Africa. It's like I don't understand how many times we have to keep reiterating that Africa is a continent. It has always had multiple countries and tribes within it. So it's not far-fetched that one other nation would deal with someone foreign out the continent of Africa to spread a propaganda and religion throughout the diaspora of the land. So I don't understand how we just forget nationalism. I think that has a lot to do because those of us that are Black American who aren't, claiming indigenous or mixed with indigenous blood, most of your African blood is West African.
Yep. Exactly.
And if you as a West African, even in Africa, sweetheart, you got a colonialistic Eastern European, Ethiopian mix version, even in Africa, who you think the Moors part of their history. That's what that whole meme and conspiracy and part of the truth, the true dark-skinned Europeans, these are still Negroid phenotype people, but we're not under a nation of blackness. So I think that because we are mostly Black American, West African anchored, we're not researching this. We're not thinking, even though the Bible does. You know what the funny part is? You know what's crazy? Remember the Fawcett movie with Jim Henson, the Ten Commandments, y'all. And if my partner want to go back and watch this, he gonna think it's funny. But remember when they paid tribute to Pharaoh and Nefertiti and the beautiful dark skin, melanated, these were Ethiopians. And remember Nefertiti said, your enemies from on high pay tribute. And she was like, and such a beautiful enemy. That automatically, even from that visual, even though they were showing you accuracy in that moment of those Negroid genophenotype actors, you can't relate to that because your culture here in West, as a Black American descendant of slavery, even when you do your roots and genealogy, gonna tie you to different tribes in West Africa, which is
Yeah.
not the land and origin of this Abrahamic belief. So that's why I think that subconsciously and intentionally that's why most Black Americans are not going to more follow that. But that's why people can't. But nigga, I know I'm West African, so you're not gonna convince me to follow it just because you bring up the facts about the Ethiopic Bible and ignore all of the other facts of what actually makes it true, why it's canonized, not true in the sense of what it's presenting, but the actual reality of how it's institutionalized. This is why it's real. I shouldn't say true. It has a consequence of reality. It exists. So that's all I want to say, baby. Y'all have a nice day, I'm gonna keep listening. But if you want to talk back and forth, anything I said, I ain't gotta go. But you know,
No, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. And it's the mentality of, people who want to hold on to this book, and that's the real thing. When you take the Power Rangers, and you take all these other forms of Christianity that Black people engage in that they engage in America and in West Africa today,
yeah.
and South Africa today, all of
Hmm.
it is, I'm Black and I've been taught this religion and I want to hold on to it, but I recognize the evil that
Hmm.
people have done in this religion that actually caused my people to wind up believing in this.
Right.
And even though I know that, I need to be able to say, well, they messed it up. The real version of it is
Um.
over in Ethiopia or Egypt, and or they'll use, well, the Middle East is on the African plate, so it's really northeast Africa. All right, so
Thank you. Tunisia, bitch. Tunisia. And when you
yeah,
go in that area, and funny, one thing you said, and you know what I'm sick of, which I'm just laughing and gagging. Everybody wanna have the conversation of who the real motherfucking Christians are. And it's like, do you understand tribalism, rape, murder, underhanded tactics? All those things are biblical. Those things are justifiable. So when people do terrible, inhumane things, just like they tortured our ancestors, I had a conversation how they did our ancestors in the civil rights and slavery. Honey, you gotta remember, these are the same Europeans that put their own people in Iron Maidens
yeah, it is
and
not
did
like
all type of torture. It's not like that you think that they were gonna stop. Do you see what Europeans did to their own the religious people? Did you see you from you do you see what they did to their own people to convert them?
anybody who has attached themselves to this religion, any of these Abrahamic religions, have
Yeah.
violated, have violated what, the second commandment over and over again. Isn't the second commandment, don't do not take my name in vain, which
Yeah.
actually means don't do anything horrific in my name. So
Right.
whether we're talking about how the Europeans decimated their own European family members
Yeah.
through this
Nice.
religion, or decimated other peoples through this religion, once it became the religion of the colonies, we have done, then the Black people in Nigeria have killed other Black people who aren't Christian or doing a variation of Christianity, or they've been fighting the Muslims and the Muslims been fighting them.
Right.
We have, how many of us know the Black church, especially in the South, but the Black church, where the church keeps hitting and allows the pastor to keep on raping and
Come
stealing
on.
money and all these sorts of things, or
Mm-hmm.
ostracizing families who don't believe in what you believe, or I used to watch how we used to dog out, like our pastor Baptist pastor is dogging out the damn Kojic pastors and all the Kojic
Yeah.
people, and the J Dubs, it's like y'all are all taking this religion and doing inhumane shit. And if it's not completely inhumane, it's just y'all just dirty motherfucker.
But isn't it in the Old Testament when you deal with the genealogy and about the tribalism? It's like, but that's the nature. That's ironically, that's why it's a living word. This is the, I'm not saying this because I'm glorifying it. No, I'm speaking of the psychology and the sociology of the institution of why it's real when I say that. They are indeed acting out and internalizing and subconsciously acting out on the very behavior. Because and they read it. Because I said, as a Black American, as a person that you have your issues here, how do you look at that version of objective morality and play mental gymnastics in your mind because you got that override there? But then you want to live in a reality where you're constantly talking about inequality and injustice. But you, and then all Americans, and I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna shut the fuck up. Look, we live in a democracy, but your ideal of an eternal king is a monarchy. Check that shit, people. We are surrounded by people who live in a so-called democracy, but their eternal and interpersonal ideal is a fucking the kingdom. Come on,
It's an imperialism, a
baby,
dictatorship.
baby.
Yeah, I wouldn't even give it the nicety of saying a kingdom.
But yeah,
That's just imperial. That's just
you
a
right.
dictatorship.
You
Because
right.
you have to this in order for you to exist in this heaven that they've created in this Bible, you would have
Mm-hmm.
to have your mind wiped, forget who you are, and you are enslaved to worship this God for all eternity. Sitting around his throne, calling out his name.
Yep.
That's hell. That's hell.
Right. Yeah.
And
So yeah.
purposely.
Yeah. And then my what I try to advise people to do as atheists, agnostics. I'm not going to have the conversation about the mysticism. And no, I'm gonna meet you where you are, but I'm gonna show you. Let's try to show people through the institution of the matter of facts why it's real, and give them that. Yes, every knee shall bow, every tongue will confess. Render what is Caesar. I am an American paying, tax-paying citizen. I have to render to the state, even though it is democracy, it's still government. So I still have to follow under the religiosity, integrated into the politics and everything. So I have to confess. I have to live and walk among those type of political parameters. So yes, it is not just your belief. I wish it would just when we die we would find out. The
Right.
ultimate thing it boils down is that you want to determine how I yet live. That's where you can't. So you see why it's real, sugar. It's real because you heard me. It's real because you get to impose your human emotion as deity. You want to deify and make your emotions law. Holla at y'all later.
All right. Appreciate you. Oh man, IG. Oh shit. I thought I hit the wrong button. There's an aspect of this conversation about the Ethiopian Bible that I wanted to get into, but I wanted somebody to ask a question or make a statement first. I'm gonna hold off on that part. And instead, let me look and see at some of the comments that you guys have been making. But the more recent one, I'm not gonna scroll like 50 miles back. As an Irish Catholic, I have seriously been thinking about joining an African Orthodox church. Why? Why would you seriously think about joining an African Orthodox church from Irish Catholic Church? There is no more truth. There is no more truth within an African Orthodox church as there is within any Irish Catholic or any other version of Catholicism or any other version of Christianity. So the question then is why? Joining an African church is not going to bring you any closer to the truth of anything whatsoever. Not even slightly. When the Ethiopians gained Christianity, they got it from a Hellenistic Jew who was under the Roman Empire and was doing what the Roman Empire wanted them to do. So you're still practicing the same religion just with an African spin on it, just from a different cultural basis. That's it. That's all any of the African churches are. It's the same as the European churches have a European spin. It's like leaving England and coming to America, and you're going to see things are done differently. It could be titled the same thing, but it's just going to have an American spin on it. And depending upon where you are in America, it's going to have a different spin. Catholics in the North are different than Catholics in the South, and they're different than Catholics in the Midwest, and different than Catholics in the West. They're all different. Because all this whole thing is based on your culture. It ain't based on nothing else beyond your cultures. Right? That's it. That's all it is. And so when the Ethiopians, who were a polytheistic people at the time frame that Frumentius came down into Ethiopia, they and it wasn't Ethiopia at the time frame. It was called Aksum. I always want to put an I in it, but it's Aksum. When it came down to Aksum, they were practicing polytheism at the time frame. They were not practicing any form of the Abrahamic religion. They weren't practicing Judaism. They weren't practicing any other form of Christianity. Right? None of that. A Syrian from the Byzantine Eastern Roman Empire brought Christianity to Ethiopia. Well, was Frumentius an Assyrian? But what we do know is that he came out of the Church of Alexandria. But the African church might have a better looking women do that do, which is the reason. That is the reason why a lot of men go to church. You go to church for the women. That's it. They go there for the women. I'm on the verge of deconstructing. Okay. Hopefully we can be helpful here. And this is, love Kevin, you my dude. I thought Africans don't believe in anything outside themselves. That's that generalization that IG was talking about. Africa is incredibly vast. It's big as hell. It's bigger than America, than the United States, I should say. It's bigger than the United States. I don't think we fully conceptualize how large of a continent this is. You cannot group everybody together. But as far as believing in anything outside themselves, no. Almost every religion around the world, in ancient religions, almost all of them believe in something outside themselves. Let's see. I have an issue with a book. I have an issue with the book. Is the only way I have issues with a book is the only connection that we have to an all-powerful God. And it talks about how God used to talk and walk here, but now we only have a book written by man. And here's the thing about that, Just Danby. None of the people who actually wrote any of the Bible, when it talked about these miracles happening or these guys walking around, walking and talking to them, none of the people who wrote those stories were alive when the events supposedly happened. They're all telling what a story that's been a long form of telephone game. So like Moses didn't write the Exodus story. The Exodus story is written several hundred years after the supposedly event actually happened, almost 1,000 years since the event supposedly happened. So there's no one who was alive who saw the pillar of fire. There was no one alive who they built the tent of meeting and God was supposedly living inside there. So even the writers of the book are writing about some events that they didn't experience themselves. So when we look at it today, because they finalized it with this Jesus character, you still got the same thing people aren't talking about how people, God is walking with us. So what they'll do is they'll then talk about how miracles happen. But yet none of these miracles ever happen while there are people present. Every time you hear some pastor, some person comes, I went and I healed somebody, they never have any video of it. We've had the ability to video record for over 100 years now, but no one ever has any video recording of a healing, right? We don't get those because it's all, for lack of a better term, it's all bullshit. You got to have some proof. But in religion, you don't. You don't have to have any proof. You don't have to have any proof whatsoever. All you got to do is have the ability to convince enough people that what you're saying is true. That's it. Like this, the Grimoire, who supposedly copied the oldest version of the Ethiopian Bible, but it's not a complete Bible. It's only a couple of the Gospels. Supposedly was divinely inspired and supposedly copied it within 24 hours. But there's no proof of that. This is a claim that they make. This is a claim they make. Now, and it's interesting. People will claim that that's the oldest, but it's not. It's not even a complete version. It's not a complete version of a Bible at all. Even for his time frame, in the around 500, it's not even in his time frame a most complete version. You still have the Valentinus and the Septuagint at that time frame. Written in Greek and written in Latin. You don't have anything from the Ethiopians that's a complete version until the 1500s. 1500s is when you got it. There were so many other Bibles written, codified in between that time. And then there's a problem with survivability. Where can most things be preserved? Hot, dry, and desert areas. You ain't preserving much around the Mediterranean. You ain't preserving much in Europe. You got humidity. It's not going to work. One of the biggest mistakes that mankind is making right now is the fact that all these museums that exist all around the world, that I like this show called, what is it? Earth Without Humans or some shit like that, where everybody disappeared. And then what would happen over time? The majority of our history that's in museums would be decimated as soon as the generators go out, because they're not in places where they can be preserved. So imagine how many papyri was written that because they were in Italy, because they was in all these other different places, that they would have been lost over time. This is why the oldest piece of anything that we have of a Bible is P52. P52 is this big. Is this big? That's how big P52 is. And so it has a few lines of mark. And that's it. It's the oldest thing we got. Now they try to put it before the 70 because they want it to be before the temple was destroyed. But no, this shit was written. Mark was written after 70. All of it is written after 70. It's a post prophecy, not a prophecy about the temple being destroyed. All this shit was written after that. Yes, and all the authors are unknown. No one knows who the hell wrote this shit. No one knows. No one knows. I don't know what this comment is, but I'm gonna read it anyway. No. Indy said, if you were to claim certain African Christians groups have a more unadulterated version of the Bible, you'd have to you'd have a valid argument. But to say that Jesus was black is laughable. Interesting concept. So if you were to claim that certain ethnic groups have a more unadulterated version, that you can claim. It doesn't make it true, because even their earliest versions are going to be hundreds of years after the so-called events ever happened. So there's still plenty of time for scribal errors. There are plenty of time for the telephone game and exaggerations to occur. To say that Jesus was black is laughable, I disagree. Language, we control language. No one in the first century would have thought black was a race. We think that way today. And because we think that way today, then yes, Jesus would be, if the Jesus character or whomever Jesus is based off of was walking around the Levant, depending upon what version of his birth that you agree with, he is going to be what we would identify today as mixed race, or he gonna be considered black. Not that that is a sense of pride for me. I don't give two shits. Jesus could be lily white with blue eyes. I don't care. Doesn't make him real. He could be black as coal. He could be blacker than this shirt with the darkest brown eyes. It don't make his ass real, and I don't care. It doesn't give him any type, it doesn't give me any type of elevation to say that, oh yeah, Jesus, black man. No, none whatsoever. The fact that Christians sit up here and argue over the fact that Jesus, what we call race today, I think is ridiculous. It's a dumbass discussion, right? Because it don't matter. I'm sorry, comment over here on TikTok just caught my eye. The host can interrupt guests, but not you're a female. No, you're stupid. You just a little. Who has a show with a damn the guests can just come and just do whatever they want to do. You just shown that if you were to come up here, that you wouldn't know how to hold a conversation or a podcast interview. That's all you say. Just showing that you just want to come here, blah 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 blah. These motherfuckers are so simple. Oh, people are so simple sometimes. Sorry, I know that wasn't part of the conversation. It just caught my attention real quick. The simple-mindedness of people and their whiny ass mentalities. I mean, let's think about it. And this is one of the problems, because this goes back to what we're talking about. You don't have, when you go to certain other countries, folks aren't arguing about the color of Jesus. People aren't sitting up here saying that, oh, Jesus is this and Jesus is black and Jesus is white, right? They don't give a damn. They could care less. It is a bigger issue in these countries where you got black people who are trying to hold on to a religion that has oppressed them. And it's an issue when you have white people who are trying to hold on to the God mindset oppression. Those are the only people who argue about if he was black or he was white, not even realizing that at the time frame, no one would have considered that. It would have been his ethnicity that would have mattered. Was he a Hebrew? And even in being a Hebrew, where are you? Are you Galilean? Are you, are you a Judaite? Where you're from would have mattered. Kind of like how, and this used to irritate the shit out of me, kind of like how the New Yorkers used to come down to Atlanta and think that they are better than people in Atlanta because they're from New York. So his ethnicity and then his region of dwelling would have made more of a difference as to his treatment than anything else. and even by his own people. So all that Jesus black, that's taking the Bible and trying to give it a modern day argument. And my thing is, I wouldn't give a damn if he was black or white. This motherfucker said that slavery is okay. So fuck him and the horse he rode in on. Fuck him and the horse he rode in on. At that point, who gives a shit? Right? I wouldn't give a damn. Any God that says that it is okay to enslave people is not a God that I would ever give any time of worship toward. It's not worth worshiping. I would never worship. So why do I care if he's black or white? He's a slave mastering God. Any God that says that if a woman can be forced into a marriage and the way to consummate marriage is through taking her poom poom, then why would I ever support a rapist God? Why would I ever support a God that says that it is okay to kill all the babies? I don't give a damn what color your God is. Your God say he can kill all the babies. Fuck you and your God. Your God ain't worth it. Your God is not worthy of my worship. You gotta earn. You know how they say respect is earned, right? God is not outside of that requirement. You gotta earn my respect first before I give it to you. But we're not doing that. We're not worshiping some damn deity that's of that caliber. Let's see. We get a new verse. Yeah. I'm hitting the damn thing. Hey, what's your name?
Charles.
Charles, how old are you? Are you over 21?
I'm 37. We've talked before.
Okay.
We talked this summer.
Oh, cool. All right. So I'm assuming that are you a believer in the Bible?
No, I believe the Urantia book. I mean, I believe some of the Bible, but it's not. If you mean like Christians will say the Bible's their favorite book, well, the Urantia book's my favorite book.
I do recall that name. I don't recall the information though. I don't recall our conversation, I should say.
Well, it's fine. You know, it was relatively brief. It was about 10 or 15 minutes. I mean, I think it went pretty good. I ended up thinking you're a pretty good guy, a pretty funny guy and stuff, smart and everything. But it was, it wasn't that bad. Remember the sprinklers came on? I thought it was raining. You don't remember that? The whole time I thought it was raining. Sorry for cussing. The sprinklers were on at the library. I thought it was starting. It was cloudy too, you know.
I don't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Bro. So, what do you think today? So, what's your thoughts today? Do you have thoughts on our subject matter?
Well, I thought I could at least convince you to start believing in God, you know, and just remind there's people out here that know the Bible. You know, the Bible is obviously doesn't hold up. There's some truth to it though. Like, you know, for example, can you debunk Psalms 1? You know, chapter 1, verse, that whole chapter, that because it basically says to avoid hanging out with evil people, because you hang out with the evil people, you take their advice, things are going to go bad. And don't laugh at people. Don't sit and scoff and be prideful. You know, and you can't get around that. That's a universal. That's something you would probably tell your grandkids. I mean, that's something I would tell my grandkids. I mean,
you don't have to debunk every word of the Bible in order to not accept the Bible, right? So the purpose to answer your question, to debunk Psalms 1, I don't know it by heart, so I have to go look at it real quick. Happy are those who do not follow the advice of the wicked, to take the path of the sinner and the tread, and to sit in the seat of the scoffers, but to their delight. I mean, there's probably nothing wrong with this. But like you said, I can probably find this in any religion.
Yeah.
So
But that's just it. The Bible has no authority. Like, you don't have to go to the Bible, but the Bible has what I would call universal truths. In other words, hey, the Bible tells us to kind of don't just
But
needlessly slaughter people.
so does the
like a serial like a serial killer.
No.
And the whole kinds of Bibles say, all kinds of books say that.
no.
So it's a universal truth, but we know that's universally true. We shouldn't be serial killers, right?
Well, I
So
don't.
it's like,
I don't. Here's the thing. You can.
that's all it is. The Bible's an idol.
Okay.
The Bible-
Either we're gonna be talking. It's not just gonna be you talking. Okay. Because every time I try to say something, you try to talk over me. All right. We don't do that. So the Bible does tell them to go out there and genocide other people for no reason, for no justified reason.
And I don't care.
Well, no justified reason. It is not justified. So you think it's justifiable to come and just take the land where people were already living on it?
Oh, listen, I don't cherry pick, but I'd say, look, I'm saying yes. It could say universal truths in the Bible, but then over here contradict that universal truth, right? Yes, you're right. That would be a contradiction, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't believe that God told them to go execute those people. I think they just added it in. It probably was nasty, and they probably felt guilty about it afterwards and wrote down God told us to do it. Just
See, that's you interjecting. That's you interjecting your feelings in order to make this God of the Bible good.
It's not the God of the Bible. What it is the Bible is an approximation, and before the Bible, before so-called Christianity, is a religion about Jesus, not the truth, and it's the most truth we can have on earth.
But if the Bible is so filled with man's additions and your thoughts on somebody just felt bad and whatnot, why would I even bother to deal with it? So that I
don't
to go cherry pick
I
through
want to get people out of it, but there's a thin line. So atheism is a colossal error, but believing the Bible,
how is it an error?
Believing the Bible is
How-
true is
how is-
also a colossal error. I mean, like, believing the Bible has any kind of authority is an error.
How is being an atheist a colossal error?
Because it's untrue, number one. So imagine that you're denying that
How do
your
you?
creator,
How
this
can you?
beautiful creator.
So
you're
you-
denying this beautiful creator, and that's ugly.
So
That's
you would
very
have to
ugly.
prove that your creator exists in order for it to not be true.
No, but what if it exists and you're just sitting there?
I mean, if was a fifth, we'd all be
Insane.
drunk. If don't matter.
No, it does exist, and you're sitting there insane, saying that life could just begin.
Prove it. Yes, and like we can
Okay,
we have
well, I give you the evidence.
we have
I have
evidence.
evidence
What's
that
the
life. I have evidence that science will never prove that life could have began. So they've got amino acids, they've got fats, and they've got sugar. That's what's required. Carbohydrates. That's what's required for life. If you put all that together, you're gonna get life. They don't know how the fuck this happened.
My guy, let's understand. You would have to be able to replicate what has happened on the planet for millions upon millions and hundreds of millions of years in order to demonstrate how life began on this planet. You're not going to be able to do that in a lab. So to say that they put these things together and life didn't happen, well, that proves that life didn't happen, that life didn't come, that life didn't start on Earth without the help of some creator.
There's much more. Like Dr. James Storr, he's published, Origin of Life Researcher, is saying we are centuries away from any kind of progress. Right now, they're saying it's
Okay, so
it's
what does that have?
virality.
Okay,
We may never make progress.
My guy.
We may never make any progress. Sorry.
what do you understand that simply because science says that we are so far away technologically from being able to figure this out or that out does not mean that it is something that we cannot figure out. And it does not, and it does, don't interrupt me, it does not mean that your God is the answer.
No, it doesn't. But what it does, it takes that step. And if you say, well, it actually doesn't look like it's, if you actually understand the science and say it doesn't look like it's possible life began through some natural process, your next conclusion should be, well, then that means God's real, or
No.
an alien did it.
No.
Or and why can't we
If
describe
an
God?
alien did it, then that means that there is still some type of scientific process
Hold
by
on,
which
though.
it started. And if that, but
Yes,
that does
yes.
not mean that your next step is God did it if we can't figure out how it happened.
That's just
Even if it is a rare occurrence, which obviously within the universe the observable universe, it is life as we know it is a rare occurrence, but it doesn't mean a God did it. It just means we don't know yet how it fully happened.
Then let me ask you this: you say it doesn't mean God did it. Okay, so we've decided aliens mean that's just moving the goalpost. How did the aliens get here? Well,
You brought up aliens.
Okay, hold on. So then, without God, so you got two possibilities: life just began on its own, which there's no evidence for, we can't figure out, or God did it. What's the other?
Which you have no evidence for.
Okay, but hold on. You keep saying that don't mean that God did it. Okay, what's the other option besides life began on its own or God did it? You tell me the other option.
I don't know. Life began on its own because of a certain condition.
Right?
No, it's still you can say or God did it, but to say that or God did it, you will never be able to have any proof of your God. So, but science has proven that at some point we remove the veil and figure out more and more about this universe and how things happen. So science is progressive, where believing in God is regressive. Because now you stop all inquiry.
It's a simple question. Either life began on its own through a natural process or God did it. What's the third option? You're saying,
why does there have to you're trying to force me into a box? And you're in a box.
It's a dichotomy. Either God started life or life began on its own. There's no evidence life began on its own. There's plenty of evidence for God.
No, there's no evidence for God. And
yes, there is.
Dude, there's no evidence for your God. You have no theologian has ever been able to prove or provide any evidence for God that is observable, that is testable, that is repeatable. What is the evidence?
Okay, that's number one. Number one is life did not begin on its own. We don't have evidence.
So that is not evidence of God.
Now, number two.
Stop. That is not evidence of God. Only because you have determined that if it's not A, then it must be B. That is not evidence of God, because we have seen that where we previously thought that life couldn't exist in places, then we go to the damn place and find out that life exists. Like we believe that.
Oh, so you believe life began on its own? Well, where's evidence for that?
Because we have seen that Dude, you are fucking skating on thin ice if you keep fucking interrupting me.
Well, we're done then, you a crybaby bitch. God is real.
God, these motherfuckers. These some dumbass people. Why do you think you're gonna come on somebody else's show and think that you're gonna just keep on running your fucking mouth? Now, I try to be patient with these fucking idiots. What up, legend?
Hey, what's up, boss?
Nothing much, man.
Can you hear me good?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. Hey, man, I just came across your page here, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm at work here too, boss. You know.
All right.
Fire safety director here, you know? So as we talking, I'm trying to keep an eye out on the fire alarm system, right?
Gotcha.
So I mean, hey, I'm trying. I think I get it with you. You're an atheist, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you start out as a Christian?
Yes, it did.
What? Well, what denomination?
Born and raised in a Baptist family.
Okay, same here. Same here, boss. My mother from North Carolina moved to New York here. You know, met my pops. But yeah, I grew up in Baptist church. shit. My church is one of the more famous ones. It was the last church I believe Martin Luther King attended before he got shot in Harlem, right?
Okay.
Yeah, man. So I come from a deeply religious background, you know. Um, my question to you is, what made you lose your faith?
Oh, I studied the Bible, studied the history and politics around it, and archaeology. So study it.
So, okay, let's dissect that, right? So when it came to when it came to archaeology, what what did it disprove about the Bible
Uh,
in Bible's creation, right?
that the, that the flood never happened, the Exodus never happened. None of the patriarchs of back in the day ever existed.
The flood never happened.
Nope.
I mean, yeah, I've heard what you call that you saying archaeologists, scientists say that it didn't happen, at least not the way how people think it happened.
How did
I
it
mean, you
happen?
look,
Other than the way the Bible describes it happened.
okay, what was it? It was raining, am I right? It was raining.
Well, rain and then springs bursting out of the ground, but it supposedly covered the entire earth up to 18 feet above the highest mountain. We do not have enough water on the planet, in the atmosphere, under the planet to cover Mount Everest by 18 feet.
Hmm. You got me on that one, boss. Wow, 18 feet. It's been a long time since I read the Bible. I don't even remember that scripture. It said
Yeah.
18 feet above the highest mountain.
I mean, it gives the measurements in cubits, but it equals like 18 feet.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, cubits.
And then
Hmm.
and then think about this. If you research the Mount Everest, there is not enough oxygen for anything to live at that elevation, and everything would freeze at that elevation. So no matter where this boat would have been floating in the world at the time frame, because we know currents and movements, the boat would have been everything on the boat would have been frozen, and everything and every person would have died.
Yeah, that okay. Yeah, that right there. That right there. Um, yeah, that right there is just on point. I cannot lie with that. I cannot really find an answer with that. I mean, and then you were taken to the fact that you were taken to the fact of how can polar bears, how did they get a polar bear? You know
Right.
what I mean? A
Or
polar bear
or sloth.
is
How did the
is,
sloth get from and like koalas sleep 20 hours and they're awake for 4 hours. How they get that?
exactly, exactly. Yeah, right. That part is like I can't call it. I mean, hey, you could have it to where they're talking about their region in the world. You know, the Middle East, there, Israel.
Yeah. And if you took it to
Right.
the and I thought about that because believe me, when I was doing my research initially, my research was to prove the Bible, not to walk away from the Bible. But in that research, even I tried to go with, well, the word that it uses to describe the world at that time frame is a term called Eretz. That's the Hebrew
Mm.
word Eretz. Eretz can also mean your general localized landmass, right? So even when I tried to say that, well, it wasn't a worldwide flood, it was just a localized flood that Noah was in. The problem then comes with the fact that it claims that every person on the planet died. So that can't make it a localized flood. And then it says that the sons of Noah then becomes the progenitors for these other nations. But the problem is these other nations are already in existence, and they were in existence before the flood, during the flood, and after the flood. So there's no way that, for instance, Ham's descendants could have become then the Egyptians, because the Egyptians had already established a history over 1,000 years prior to the flood, and their history has no break through the flood and beyond.
Your timeline or your timeline here, where are you getting it from?
From the Bible.
Okay, so how old is the earth according to the Bible?
About 6,600 some odd years old.
So okay, so when they do those compilations there, are they doing it based on the generations? They're counting those. That's how they're doing it.
Yeah, and actually in 1990, 1991 actually, 1991, since I was on a Navy ship for 6 months, I took the time to do it myself. Because yes, you got all these other people who have done it and everything like that. So I did utilize their information, but I started with the time frame, the rough time frame of the birth of Jesus, and started going with who begat who and how old they were when they begat this person, and then how old they were when they begat that person. And when you go through that timeline, you get to like the year 4,637 BCE. Is when Adam and Eve's story happened.
Okay. Yeah, which I couldn't even, after learning, after we learning at our age, of learning about strata. You know about strata, right?
Strata?
Strata.
Like different stratas in the rock layers?
Right, exactly. I couldn't possibly believe now that the earth is 6,000 years old,
Right.
based on the fossils. You're right. It just couldn't be 6,000 years ago. Wow.
But see, based on the Bible, how old the Adam and Eve story is.
Right.
So here's the thing. I then try to convince myself that the Adam and Eve story is actually the time frame, it's the history of the Hebrew people, and only the Hebrew people. That there were other people out there in the world who've been here for over 200,000 years prior to them. And so this is the Hebrew people's story. And then I tried to work my way into that story like a Hebrew Israelite. But that still didn't work because my ancestors never from them.
Yeah, but that wouldn't work because it's because you get from Adam to Eve to Noah, and Noah's children is the progenitor of modern people, right?
That's what.
So that wouldn't work. Nope. If they were just Hebrew descendants, then how do you account for Ham, Japheth, and what have you?
Yeah, and so it still didn't work. Yeah, because when you get to, again, like you said, when you get to Noah, then you talk about Ham having his children. The lineage of Ham becomes Mizraim and Cush, and it's like, nah, but those people were around already before Noah. So it still doesn't work. So the flood story in itself is a lie. And if the flood story is not true, then the lineage that gets you to Abraham, then the lineage that gets you to Moses, then none of those can be true. And if you can't get to Moses, and then you can't get to Joshua, then you can't get to David, or you can't get to Saul, you can't get to David, you can't get to Solomon, you can't get to Jesus.
Okay. So now, okay, I want to push the Bible aside. Just the last part for me.
All right.
Okay, we want to push the Bible apart. Set it aside for now. Do you believe in a spiritual world?
No.
Okay,
Mm-mm.
you've had no kind of experiences, um, supernatural, or what's the other word? Paranormal
Yeah,
experience, have you?
I had what I thought were those types of experiences, and I had them when I was a Christian, and of course I thought that those were happening because of Jesus or the Holy Spirit or God and whatever. You know, that's what I thought.
Can you give me an example? One example?
Um, One example, and I know this is going to sound stupid, but I was a child, okay. But as a
Hmm.
youth, we the signs that on the bridges that tells you on the highway, the highway signs on the bridges.
Right, I got you.
So I used to climb down on those as
Hmm.
when I was like 12 years old, 12, 13, I used to climb down on those
Hmm.
just to sit there. And one day I was sitting there and I was contemplating what I had read in, what I was reading in the Bible. Because that was the first year so I was 12, because that was the first year I was dedicated to reading the entire Bible. And somehow I slipped and I was hanging from the bridge. And I started crying out, Jesus, I know you're going to save me. I know you're going to save me. I know you're going to save me. Right. And then as soon as I started feeling like I was about to fall, another friend of mine who wasn't there with me the entire time before grabbed me by my arm and pulled me up. So because I had cried out for God, I had believed that at that time frame, I had prayed for God to come and save me.
That's
Right?
powerful, though. Hmm.
Possible until we were at our 10-year reunion and he and I were talking, and I was like, man, I remember when you saved my life. And and he told me, he said, yeah, I was walking around. He said, I was looking for you because I was looking to go hang out with you, because he used to sit on the sign with me. He said, when I couldn't find you, I figured you was already over there. So I just went over there. So there was actually a cause and effect for him being there at that moment, because it was a routine thing that he and I used to do. And so I thought that was a supernatural thing. When I went to Israel and I was at the Wailing Wall and I'm crying at the Wailing Wall, I thought I was, and not just at the Wailing Wall, at every spot that they said that this is where Jesus was born, this is the grave, this is Calvary, I had these super connected emotional feelings. But later on, I realized that they were just emotions, right? So, and here's the thing, as an adult who has not been Christian, not since I haven't been Christian, I've had similar situations happen, and there is no spiritual to it. It's just my emotions, or it's cause and effect.
Well, I don't know with the Israel Wailing Wall thing, and I spent 6 months in Israel, right? I was on a kibbutz for 6 months, right? I lived on a kibbutz for 6 months.
Lived on a what?
A kibbutz.
What is that?
You ever? Well, a kibbutz is it's a socialist farming um, communities
Oh,
in
okay.
Israel,
Oh,
right? But I think nowadays, they not so much socialist no more, because that was in the 90s when I was there.
mm-hmm.
Um, yeah,
Really?
yeah, kibbutz in
So you
Northern
were in
Galilee.
Israel in the 90s?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we
Like
could
I
have
said,
lived.
six. It could have, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
6 months. It's beautiful. I love Israel.
All right.
Uh, no real domestic problems like here. Problems are political, right?
Mhm.
Nothing like what like what I got to deal with in New York. I'll say a bunch of nutsos here.
Yeah.
But uh, I was going to say that, yeah. So with the Welling War thing, I mean, but that first story there, I do believe that was uh deep. I think that was the spiritual world there. Yo, you falling over, brother. And I mean, it didn't have to be that way. Your friend could have said, okay, let me just take a 2-minute break and then I'm gonna go over. You know what I'm saying?
Could have, but that's my thing. It's cause and effect, because even since the years that I've walked away from Christianity, I have been in life and death situations, but yet I didn't die, and something that I hadn't counted on was able to keep me from dying. And then I would
Mm,
just, but then when I look at the situation, I figure out what the causation is.
okay.
And so it's the same thing. It's cause and effect every time, right?
I mean, I hear you. I hear you. Where that was a routine. And by the way, same time, like your routine. Y'all would always go there at that same time.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I
And
get it. Yeah, it's a
I mean,
routine.
it's like I was just telling my wife about this the other day. Back when I had a crotch rocket, I had a ZX14, and I took this friend of mine. She went to this roundup with me. On the way back, I'm on the highway. I'm riding, on 285 in Atlanta. I'm going about 90 miles per hour. And because I ride very intuitively,
Right.
paying attention to every goddamn thing that's going on. I felt when her
Right.
body went back away from me. Oh,
Sorry about that. I had to cut that off. That alarm. Go ahead.
that's your job. But I felt when her body went away from me. So I reached back and grabbed her. This woman was falling asleep on the back of my motorcycle. And this was
Hmm.
and so I had to ride holding her close to me so that she wouldn't fall asleep. So there was no spirit there. It's just I've been riding motorcycles since I was 6 years old. I'm very aware of everything that goes on when I'm riding. The fact that I've never had anybody fall asleep on me while they was riding with me. The fact that I noticed her body movement, it's
Hmm.
not, there was no spirit. It was my awareness of being a good rider. And there were so many other times when I had that motorcycle where death should have happened. But my awareness and reaction to different events happening on the road allow for me to survive any of those opportunities for death to happen. And there
Okay, I could see
are,
that.
and I
But
can run through a litany of stuff since I walked away where
mm,
cause effect is why something happened in my life, not.
I don't know. For me, I'm gonna share something with you here. Um, and I hate saying it because it's like every time I seem to type in the September 11, you
Mhm.
know, I don't. What is it? Where YouTube is sensitive to somebody saying 911 or
Yeah, I mean,
you know.
it depends on the context words around it. It gets censored.
Hey, look, man. Like I said, I'm from New York, born in Harlem, lived here
Hmm.
over 50 years, brother. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Uh, um, back in 1990, I dreamed of 9/11. No lie, I dreamt it, bro.
Okay.
Dreamt it. I'm gonna tell you, that and and through the years, that's been my most vivid dream that I remember in exquisite detail.
Right.
You know, and it was and that was really that's what I call my enlightening year. even before that dream, I was getting into history and what have you, including the Bible, right? Um, so with this dream, I live on 111th Street, mind you, right? Building 216, apartment 1, 111th Street. All right. At the, before I describe the dream, I'm gonna be fast with it. Before I describe the dream, though, it took me a while to figure out what that dream meant.
Okay.
You know, but it always haunted me. Uh, so like I said, I lived on 111th Street.
So
Uh,
is that close to the area? I don't know New York.
no, 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 no. Harlem,
Oh,
Harlem may be about from
okay.
Wall
So
Street. That's
that's in
down.
Harlem. Okay.
Yeah, well, the what's that? Ground Zero, or where the Twin Towers were.
Yeah,
That
I
was
understand. I didn't know if 111th Street was in a different borough, but that's in Harlem.
yeah. What Harlem. All right, Ed. I'm gonna see you tomorrow. All right, all right.
Okay.
So maybe in about 5 miles. It was maybe about 6 miles, more like 6 or 7 miles from Harlem.
Okay. I got you.
Right. So, like I said, it's 111th Street, apartment 1, building 216. See, these numbers gonna play. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
right off the back, you should already get, 111. Okay. Uh, Here's the dream now. So I used to sleep on the couch. I had a bedroom, but I didn't have no TV in my bed back then. Teenager. I'm a teenager at this point, but I always fell asleep on the couch watching Star Trek, Honeymooners, right? Fell asleep on the couch. That's how the dream started off. And I wake up, it's like at the crack of dawn. So a reddish dawn. And because the window is right underneath the couch. And we lived on the ground floor, right? We lived on the ground floor, in front of the building. So I'm looking out. The red dawn is really eerie, is really getting me. Then I could kind of hear some rumbling. So now I look out the window. My mother's on the stoop, but she's not paying me no attention, oblivious, if you will. But the rumbling noise, and then I look up, it's getting even more redder and darker. And it feels like it's 7 in the morning or 6 in the morning in the dream, right? And so I look up to the west, and I look to the east, and then I just go out. No, I looked out more outside of the window, right? And I see what what appears to be like 4 Arabs. Now they were jet black with red eyes, right? They have red eyes, and they were jet black, the skin color, but they were in Middle Eastern garb, with the turbans, the tunics. These were Arabs to me in the dream. Even in dream, I'm interpreting them as Arabs, okay, or Muslims. That's what it felt like, and it was 4 of them. So they're galloping on horses from the west to the east, but but on the heels of the horses was blood. Okay. Now I know it may sound like the Shining movie, right? But the blood is going from west to east, maybe about 4 foot of blood, right? But the thing is, as they're coming down the block, they're shooting like fire beams out of their hands, and the buildings are catching on fire, right? But the whole point of the dream is I'm following that trail of blood, and I looked where it was going to. Now on our block, have you ever heard of the Central Park 5?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Right. I live right up the block from them. I don't know if you ever see the beginning of the movie they did on Central Park 5. Okay.
No, I've never seen the movie at all.
Okay. If you get a chance, look at it. This in the beginning of the movie, they're going to show where these guys, most of them live.
Mm-hmm.
It was called Schomburg Towers, residential complex.
Okay.
But these towers are designed like the Twin Towers, like the World Trade Center.
Okay.
And I believe they came up in the 70s about the same time as the Twin Towers. Okay.
All right.
That is where that blood was leading to. That is where the 4 horsemen, if you will, was leading to those 2 towers. Right now, this is in 1990. It stayed with me for years. And then I was trying to wake my mother up. I'm trying to wake my mother up when I discovered all this, and she's just oblivious in the dream. Okay. I always, I told the fruit people of the dream, but it, just oblivious to it, didn't care about hearing it. Now, when we get to 9/11, I started, I don't know, one day it just popped in my head. Oh, this is what I was dreaming. That is what God was showing me. He was showing me that event that would happen 11 years later. From 1990 to 2001 is 11
Right.
years, am I right?
Yeah.
11 years later. I live on 111th Street, apartment. And so now I started to do the numbers. Okay, building 216. 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 plus 6 is what?
9.
That is 9. Okay. I live in apartment 1, 111th Street, 1990. That to me isn't coincidence, brother. Come on, man.
I mean,
And I'm not making this up to you either.
No, I hear you. I hear you. I understand you. The interesting things about dreams. Now, I did spend quite a lot of time studying dreams because I'm with you. A lot of my dreams happen, right? And I dream every night. Right? A night doesn't go by that I don't dream. But dreams are incredibly vague, and dreams can be applied to so many different things as well. The fact that the 4 horsemen, which if you were Christian at that time frame, obviously the Bible teaches about the 4 horsemen, but you ain't got to be Christian. You hear about the 4 horsemen just living in a Christian dominated country. And when did the Central Park 5 happen?
1989.
1989.
Which was going to be 12 years.
So the Central Park 5 is fresh, is still fresh in your mind, and even more so fresh in your mind because you live in New York. I didn't hear about the Central Park 5 until Donald Trump said something about it. When he put his board and all that kind of stuff. That was the first, because that news wasn't really big. It wasn't reported in Atlanta in the same way it would be reported in New York. So it will be fresher on your mind, more constant on your mind. And then with the 4 horsemen and then leading to that building, some could say that your dream was just in reference to the fact that you saw what happened to them, and that very same thing that happened to them, being a young Black man in New York down the street from them, it could happen to you. Could I not interpret it that way?
Um, I guess you could. I mean, I could see you would interpret it that way.
Yeah, I mean, because
Uh,
being from Atlanta, I still had sundown towns going on when I was a youth. So I had many dreams. I had dreams about being hung by white people because it
mhm.
was something that was common enough in the 80s in the outskirts of Atlanta and in Atlanta. So having that dream of it happening to me is not me predicting a future event, but something that my mind recognizes. So it could be just your mind recognizing what happened to the Central Park Five, knowing that it could happen to you. You see these four
Brother,
horses.
what about the numbers? The numbers. You know what I'm saying? That building
Because
there,
you lived in 216, right?
right?
So since it happened to the Central Park Five, the numbers could represent the fact that it's identifying you because that's where you live.
But they're coming up as 911,
Actually,
9111,
actually,
right?
if you say it's not coming up as 911, it's coming up as 91111. I mean
True,
9111. So it's
true.
not really
But even
coming up
it,
as
right?
11.
Well, even like when you look at 1990, the
And
year
hold
the
on
dream
though.
happened.
Hold on. You gotta if you're gonna apply the same numerology to the 216, then apply the same
Uh-huh.
numerology to the 111, which then that number comes out to be 3. So it'd actually be
True,
9-3.
true,
So it could
true,
be
true.
9-3. And I'm pretty sure I can probably find some major event that happened in 93. Wait a minute. When was the first actual
Exactly.
bombing of
Yeah, my
the
brother.
wasn't that in 93?
Yes,
Or was
that
that
was in
over?
'93. That was in '93.
That was in
The first,
93.
the first one.
So
Yes.
so you see how you can apply it. You can when you take a dream and then you look and you are when you have the dream, you generally don't know what the hell it's talking about most of the time. But then as events happen in life, we can start to say, "Oh, I had a dream about that," and so that's what it was talking about. Because could I not just apply your dream to the first bombing?
And not as much as 9/11, not as much as 2001,
Okay, but if it was
but you
1996,
could with an aspect that you said, right?
right?
Which it would come out to be, what is that? 393,
Yeah, 93.
right?
So,
Hmm.
so if it's 1996, could I not say that? Oh man, look, you had this dream, and you live in 216. That's 9. You 111th Street. That's 3. That's 1993. You saw the four horsemen hit a building, go to a building that looks similar to that building. Your dream was about the 93 bombing. In 96, I would say that, right?
Right.
And then here comes 2001. Now I'm going to redo your dream and say, nah, that's what it really was about. This is the same thing they do with Nostradamus and his predictions and prophecies. This is the same thing they do in the Bible. Something is prophesied that happened at the time frame of the Assyrian captivity or the Babylonian captivity. And then it either doesn't happen and it doesn't happen. So then later writers who are writing Matthew, they then try to jump it and say that, oh, what Isaiah was really talking about was right now, not what was going on at the time frame of the Assyrian or the Babylonian captivity. And people were still doing that. What Hosea was talking about is not what was happening during that time frame. They was talking about now. But the
I never
people
really thought about it. Okay, I hear you. Finish your thought there with Hosea. That was interesting.
But the people before Jesus who were living under, let's say, the Greek occupation, they took Isaiah to mean, some of them would have taken Isaiah to mean what was happening during their occupational time, and they applied it to the Maccabees.
Mhm.
Because, the Maccabees were able to establish a kind of mini statehood inside of the Greek Empire, inside of Judea.
Right.
They
Right.
applied Maccabees. But then when the Maccabees got their ass whooped, oh no, it's for a later time frame. So we're always doing this shell game. I know you're from New York, y'all like that shell game. We're always playing this shell game to dream prophecies.
No, you got a point there. That's why I'm always cautious with I mean any paranormal story, but yeah, but particularly with dreams here. You know what I mean? But on this one, we're going to agree to disagree. that dream has stuck with me for a while,
I
and
understand.
and just how I could remember the details of it.
Yeah.
More than even more than any other dream. Like my mother passed away a few years ago. It was a two-part dream with that really. You know, when she died, I dreamt I was getting phone calls. You know, I was a two. It didn't go too much deep into that. You know, I got phone calls, and I could feel that it was about my mother, but I missed the phone calls really. And then when I wake up, I hear my girlfriend. You know, I hear my girlfriend on the phone with my sister, and when she said, "Oh," I knew my mother passed because she was sick. She was sick anyway. You know what I mean?
Right.
But when I woke up and I looked at my phone, I see 7 missed calls from my sister. Now somebody may say, "Oh, well, maybe you could hear the phone ringing in your sleep, and that's why you dreamt of your cousin calling you." Even though I couldn't talk with my cousin on the phone, I felt it was. I'm talking about within a dream, right? I couldn't. There was still this ominous feeling, like something bad. You know what I mean? And then after, and actually, she told me that. You know, my mom, because I love my mother. That was my world. You know what I mean?
I understand.
You know, but I'm so tired from because I got to be up for work. I eventually fall asleep again, and then I dream right away, and it was like orbs of light, and they were her telling me, and it's funny, yeah, it's funny because the dream was taking place in that apartment in 216, and we moved out of 216 in May of 1993. Okay, we had lived in 216 for since 79. So what is that, for like 14 years? Yeah, we moved out in May of 1993. So when I had the dream with my mother that night after she passed, and with the orbs of light, we were in 216 again, you know, and just orbs of light, and it wasn't a physical form of it, it was just lights, but her voice was like, I'm good, Ahmed. I'm good. That's my real name, Ahmed. I'm good. Don't worry. I'm good. Right. But yeah, that's what I'm saying with dreams, man. I know where some, it's just dreams and stuff. Maybe things that, like you're saying, things that you may be thinking of and just on your mind about or something.
Yeah.
But
And
it's
something to dream. I mean, I don't know everything about dreams. It's something to dreams. Honestly, I think that dreams are showing a deeper consciousness of that you have about yourself and about the world around you. Real quick, because I do want to get back to our subject matter. I had a dream when my grandfather died that he was sitting on the edge of my bed and he told me that the family was going to fracture and it's going to be up to me to bring the family back together. Of course, all the events happened where our family fractured, and then we all came back together, and it was because of my insistence that we came back together. Because, you know, for my two grandparents, then all their kids, and then all the grandkids and cousins, we were always close knit. But the perception is, even as a child, I recognized that, and I was a teenager at the time, my grandparents were the glue that held all of us together, because that's where all of the rituals were. The Sunday dinners, the Friday night card table games, the fishing, the trips. Those two people were the glue to that family. So when both of them are gone, without the glue, everybody's going to separate. I realized that 97, I started a process, and we started having some of those rituals again. And now my family is even tighter than they used to be, and it's like 90 of us just from those two people. So my perception, even as a teenager, recognized that situation. Did my grandfather visit me 4 days after he died? Probably not. But my mind created that image. I had my own death dream over and over again. So, and I knew that I would have a daughter. So I used to tell my kids, Mom, we're gonna have a daughter. We're gonna have a daughter, and you and her are gonna find me dead. Right? But then I had the dream over and over again. And then I realized that in the dream, but after the first child was born, and I'm looking at her and I'm like, nah, when she gets about 4 years old, actually, I'm looking at her and I'm like, nah, it's not you and her that comes and find me, it's her and her sister. So I knew that our second child was going to be a girl, and it was. But then after that, I learned how to control my dreams. My death dream stopped being a death dream. Yeah, I was outside my body seeing this stuff happening while I was asleep. But then I went back inside my body, went to the door and answered it, and had a good time talking to my kids.
See, now you said you were outside of your body.
Yeah, like every time I had this death dream, I was hovering above my bed and hovering above myself sleeping. And then I would see my two daughters coming to the door of my house. And the dream would always stop right there, right? But then later on in life, I learned how to control my dreams. And so every time I had that same death dream, it stopped being a death dream, because even though I would see them come to the door, I would see myself sleep, then I would, because I control my dreams at this point, I get up out the bed. You know, I go back to seeing the perception from me being in my body, and I go back and I go and answer that door, and then me and my girls just have a great visit. So it ceased being a dream to being the dream that I want it to be, because I control my dreams. My dreams don't happen all willy-nilly anymore. If I don't like the way it's going, I change it. But I do think it shows us perceptions of, it shows us images and ideas and things that we have in the deepest recesses of our mind, or things that we just constantly think about. And maybe there is a way that our dream is peering into the future. It could be. Time is an interesting thing. It could be, because our minds are incredibly powerful, more powerful than we know. So,
I like that. I like that Shakespeare quote. What is it? There are more things in heaven and earth, of Horatio, that man can dream of. You know?
yeah. So and here's the thing. I wouldn't put that, let's say that when you die, your consciousness stays together, right? You are still going to be Ahmed. You're going to know you're Ahmed. If you went and if you were able to maintain that consciousness and you dwelled as another state of being, I wouldn't call that spiritual. That's just still living on a different state of being within the natural universe, because there is nothing actually supernatural. It is just things that are beyond our knowledge of nature. You know
Okay, so I get you.
Yeah.
I get you. All right, brother. Let me get back to work here.
I appreciate
And,
that. I enjoyed the conversation. That was much better than the previous joker that I was talking to.
yeah, I heard a little bit of it. Yeah. Same here, brother.
I appreciate you, legend.
All right. Same here. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.
Why my button's not working? Oh hell. I can't. I'm clicking the button to remove legend, but it won't do. It's not working. I'm gonna refresh this page. I hope it doesn't drop the live for Facebook and YouTube. But I'm clicking buttons and it ain't working. Nope, I click refresh and that ain't working either. So it's still showing me legend. Oh, this is some bullshit laptop. When I told y'all I need a new laptop, I'm serious. I need a new laptop. Because even though I know legend is gone, I still see it's still on my screen. Legend, if you're still there, see if you can kick yourself because it's not allowing me to do it. Okay, it's going now. Let me see. Oh, I'm clicking and ain't nothing happening. This is some bullshit. Ah. Yeah. Angelina, I need a new computer laptop. This laptop is pissing me off. Why is it unresponsive? Let's see if I want. Yeah, I can't even scroll up and down to see comments. I can't put comments on the screen. I'm in a dream. I'm dreaming now, Dwayne. Oh man, this is gonna get on my nerves. Why is this not working? We are now having technical. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now having technical difficulties. It is not allowing me to click. Like it's hovering above and things are moving like they're supposed to move. But my keyboard clicks are not working at all. Let me see something. Please tell me it's not going to work that way. No, if I control alt delete is going to cancel the whole live, Kevin. That should shut the whole damn thing down. The mouse moves over stuff. The stuff highlights when you're on it like it's supposed to, but then I click on it and oh, there we go. Now it's acting right. Now it's acting right. There we go. The power of the mind. Let me make sure. Yep, there we go. All right, that's working. All right. All righty. Everything. I wonder why I was doing that, but anyway, I still want a new laptop. Damn it. Okay, so yeah, I know that was off topic. We actually have yet to have a conversation with anybody on the damn subject matter that we're talking about. Hopefully we can have one. Biggie said it's all a dream. Why aren't they what, coach? Oh, so what we were talking about, Manny Boss, is the fact that if the oldest, if Black people like to claim that the oldest Bible is the Ethiopian Bible, and that Christianity came to Ethiopia and is not tainted with Romanism, with the Roman versions of Christianity, which is what all other versions of Christianity are tainted with. So then why aren't Black Christians? So why are Black Christians not practicing the Ethiopian version of Christianity, since they always like to claim it? Every person I've ever known who claims this never actually practices the Eastern Orthodox version of Christianity, or the from the Church of what I can't pronounce the name, Tawuda. So that's what the actual conversation was earlier. I broke down most of it. I did leave one part out. Haven't talked about Acts 8 yet, as far as the Ethiopian eunuch, because the Ethiopian eunuch has actually nothing to do with the Aksum Empire, which later becomes known as Ethiopia. I did do a video about it yesterday, utilizing this other young man. I wanted to make sure he got credit. He just started his page, so I wanted to make sure that people, I like helping people to grow their pages, even if they don't know I'm helping them do it. But he did a great breakdown on how Acts 8 and the fact that they utilize the term Candace actually means that they would have been dealing with the people of Cush and not the people of the Aksum Empire. And since the Aksum Empire is what becomes Ethiopia, then the Ethiopian eunuch has absolutely nothing to do with Ethiopia, because the Greeks, which everything is written in Greek in the first century, the Greeks would have been utilizing they utilized the term Ethiopia to mean anyone south of Egypt, which the Cush would have been Sudan, but anyone south of Egypt, anyone in the people of Arabia, and even utilized it when they spoke about the people in India. So all those people would have been considered burnt face, because Ethiopia means burnt face in the Greek. But so the claim that Christianity was in Ethiopia in the first century because of this Ethiopian eunuch is actually a lie, because the Aksum still practice their polytheistic religion long until we get to the 4th century. Right. So when Christians claim that, they still don't know what they're claiming, because people like to read these books as if they're reading it today. They are not reading it how people would have understood it back then, or how things were meant at that time frame. Right. That's why language is important, because we change the meaning of things on a constant basis. And to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, let me bring up this map. During the, I think this is one of them, during the 1st century, which is when this Ethiopian eunuch story is supposedly happening, Candace would have been up here in Cush. It would have not have been down here in Axiom, right? So the Ethiopian eunuch story is dealing with the Cushite people. It is not dealing with the people who are in the kingdom of Aksum, which is what becomes Ethiopia. We don't have this massive land area called the Aksum Empire that is Christian until 520. Around 520, this is when the Aksum Empire grows to its largest in the ancient world, which covers parts of Sudan, Eritrea, parts of Yemen, down to Djibouti and into the northern highlands of Ethiopia. So when people are claiming Ethiopia, they actually have no idea of what they're claiming, because they don't understand the timeline of when a kingdom was whatever a kingdom was at any given moment in time. I got this map too. I forgot to pull this one, or it might just be a replica. Yeah, so I brought this one up because the Cushite people, their capital, and they would have been called Meroe during the time frame of this so-called Ethiopian eunuch. He would have been going to the nation called Meroe at that time frame. Meroe is the only place that they use the title Candace. He was not in Axiom. He was not in Ethiopia, right? But everyone who was in this southern region below Egypt were considered Ethiopians. Even the Egyptians were considered Ethiopians. Axiom would have been considered that. The Sabians, the Homerites, the Jebusites, all of these people would have been considered that, even all the way across to the Satavahanas would have been considered Ethiopians, because it simply just means burnt face. So Acts 8 in no way, shape, or form demonstrates that the same Ethiopians that people who are claiming the oldest Bible are the same people. They are nowhere near the same people. Now, I don't know if this person is still waiting, so let me see. Yeah, Ron, yeah. But they are nowhere near the same people. Ron, you're still there.
Oh, yeah, I'm sitting.
I appreciate you being patient. I know my man has a slow piece. His speech pattern is methodical, so it took a minute, but I appreciate your patience. Are you over 21? I gotta ask for
Yes,
you.
I am.
Okay. And are you a believer in the Bible God?
Well, not in a literal sense. I'm more of a believer in myself.
Okay.
So I would say, and I wanted to say, I was like, I think there is proof of God, but I say that proof of God, if you want to see who God is, just look in the mirror.
Okay. All right.
That's my outlook. I heard you debating with the other religious guy, but I think, well, one thing I do know is that we can't do anything without energy. Isn't there all energetic force that causes all things to exist, but that same energy is inside of you?
Yes, I agree that all things are bearing energy, and you can't do nothing. And without energy, nothing can happen. And energy never dies. It just transmutes from one form to another. So I've heard some people say that is God. That God is just energy. So is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. That we can't that God that people are searching for is just the life force that animates everything. You know, we can't start a car without energy. We can't even be on this live without energy. It's like
Right.
we can't do anything without it. So where do people see God other than that energy force, that light force?
Now, here's a question though. So in order for, and this is where I separate the two. I will agree with you on everything you just said about energy, except calling it God, because then that would mean that the energy must be intentional, has a consciousness. So do you think that there is a supreme conscious energy that has intentions of creation or meddling and whatnot?
Yes, I think that. I mean, I feel like that energy is us. Like you say, it just takes different shapes and forms. But I would say, being that energy takes different shapes and forms is very conscious.
Okay.
I think that it's just not. I think that we're just more blinded by our five senses, but in reality, we really have one sense.
Okay. So, and correct me if I'm wrong. So you're saying that our shared consciousness would be God?
If that's what you want to call it. Like you say, I think God's just a title.
I wouldn't call it God because
right. I'm saying God. I think that's just a title that we place upon the higher power, which is really just a life force that animates everything. If a person want to call it God, then so be it. But no, I don't believe in no, man sitting in the clouds holding his magical wand.
Right. So for you, if correct me if I'm wrong, what you're saying is that God is just self. That you individually are your own God, and so
Right.
is everyone else their own God. But there is no supreme God.
Right. No, the supreme God would, from my perspective, it would simply just be yourself.
Okay. I can't disagree with that because I have often said that you are the God of your own universe.
So when people I hear people debating the Bible and all that, but from my perspective, I think people just take the Bible too literally and don't understand it was written as a code to give you a better understanding of yourself for whatever reason that they wanted to write. But I think that's just poetry that's actually to help you learn about the different virtues inside of you, and the different virtues that we go through in life. So negative and positive, light and darkness. It always gives you a polarity. You notice the Bible always gives you two or something. It gives you darkness and light. Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel was always dealing with the number two, which I think that represents, universal polarity that we deal with. We got negative and positive, light and darkness.
it's just showing you polarity. We always gonna have opposing factors to ourselves. Like we have times where we're happy, we have times where we're sad.
I'm with you. I'm with you, except for the fact that I don't think that the Bible writers were that intuitive to that thought process. In all honesty, they were literally writing what they believed, and they thought that those things were literal things that were happening. But so let me ask you this question though: what happens after you die, in your opinion? After you die from this body?
What happens after we die?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm a firm believer, if that's what you want to call it, in continuation. That nothing ever really dies. We just change from one form to the next.
Right. But
what we're just continuous.
So does your consciousness stay together? Or does it just disperse into the field of energy?
I think that depends. It just depends on the individual and what you want to do in a so-called afterlife. Because I feel like there really is no afterlife. It's just life.
Right. But well, after this life, though, I'm not saying that, because I agree with you. There's no such thing as death, because your energy cannot be destroyed. But does your conscious energy, if we ever really figure out what consciousness is, but does it stay together? Will you still know that you are Ron? Or
yes.
Okay, so
I think so. I feel so that you're still gonna know that you are you.
So you think
you're aware of that you're just a being, you're just energy.
Right. And so
I think that will always be. That's just continuation.
So do you think
because
that
energy never dies? So how the hell can we die? Yeah, this physical body, this biological clock may expire for us, the physical sense of myself, but that warmth of that energy that's inside of me, where does it go? I say it just goes into continuation.
So do you think that you determine what happens, or does some other being determine what happens?
I feel like some other being, but the other being is you. You are the other being.
Okay, so then you decide what happens.
Right.
There's no other being that's deciding it. You decide.
Most people perspective, they think that it's an other being, but the other being is really you. It's just that we live like in a I think life is like a strange paradox, man. And that's what we're here for. We're here to be forgetful, to figure things out.
Okay, wait. So I'm with you in understanding that you are the one that determines what happens after you leave here, and people have given that authority over to this imagery that they have read from different religious books, and will most likely manifest something similar to what they have been taught. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. And I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
It's almost like I guess you could say, I would call it more like you control it, but it's almost like a program.
You control it, but it's a program.
Yeah, it's like a program. Because most people, like, let's just say, you got a Christian, they believe in heaven and hell.
Right.
So with their state of consciousness, if they feel like, they've been saw heaven and hell all their life, what they so-called pass on or whatever, that may be what they manifest in their consciousness. Heaven and hell, because that's what's been programmed into their thoughts.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with you. I got you now. Because I too have said on multiple occasions that because I'm still putting it as if your consciousness stays together, because there's no demonstration of your consciousness staying together. We have no evidence of that whatsoever. But if it does, then whatever you truly believe is what you're going to actually manifest. Have you ever read the Tibetan Book of the Dead?
No, I haven't read that book.
You should read that one, because it goes through a process that kind of is similar to what you're talking about.
Right.
Where
the reason why I say that is because the reason why I stand on that is because I see that's what we're doing here in this physical material life that we deal with. It's almost like the things that we think of, if you focus on it long enough, it would manifest itself. I know that's how it worked for me. And I notice when you look around, like, can anything in this physical material realm exist without the power of thought?
Absolutely not.
With this cell phone I'm on right now, somebody had to think of it before they actually manifest.
Yeah, you would have enjoyed
television, everything. A car that it had to be seen inside the mind first before it's manifested. So why can't that be like that in a so-called afterlife? That whatever you been programmed to believe inside of yourself is what basically you will manifest.
Yeah. Okay. I would also suggest the Kabbalion, because in the 7 Hermetic Principles, that is the law of mentalism. Now it gets into this whole the all. I don't agree with the whole concept of the all that it speaks of, but it talks about how everything that is manifested first must start as a thought, and then it materializes. And when you understand how serendipity works, which is what you're talking about here, once you focus on something long enough, your actions will start to move you in the circles where those things can be manifested. And the more and more you involve yourself in those circles, then that thought that you have will then become manifested, right? So it's not like you can't just sit in your house and say, "Oh, the check is in the mail, check is in the mail, and the shit come in the mail." That's not gonna happen. But
you gotta take action just as well.
exactly, and that's the law of vibration and the law of polarity and law of rhythm all mixed, all bounded up together. So yeah, I'm with you. I understand you. I see it from a slightly different point of view, but I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you up until the point where I can't guarantee that our consciousness stay together.
Right.
Because
well, I feel like I guess everything is based on perspective. I feel like consciousness and energy is all synonymous. That energy cannot be created nor destroyed, so our consciousness can't be created nor destroyed. It just always was and always will be.
Right.
Now these physical bodies are temporary, but that life force is inside of us. I just think it exists forever and forever, wherever it goes. Some people believe in heaven and hell. Some people believe in reincarnation. Wherever it happens, beyond the physical aspect of ourselves, the internal or the energetic part is always going to be there. It's always going to be in existence.
Right. I'm with you. Now, what about now? You said one thing that I do always like question. You said that we purposely forget, right? You said something to that effect. Because the question is always, okay, you can go on from this life and you can say that you're still going to be Ron, but what were you, since your energy has always been, was your energy a conscious state before you became Ron? Or,
yes, I feel like it's so.
So
I
then,
feel like when I say forgetful, I'm speaking about this life. I feel like that's the reason why we're learning things and we're reading all these books, because we're trying to remember or we're trying to learn or remember something.
But if you forgot, if you was living a different life before, and then you forgot and came into this life, then why wouldn't you forget before you go into the next life?
Right, it could be a possibility. That's what I'm speaking on.
Okay.
It could be a possibility. Like I say, I don't know, because there's many different perspectives on it. Some people feel like that if we don't do what we're supposed to do in this lifetime, that in the next life you become forgetful.
Yeah.
Some people feel like you can master this physical material realm and then ascend to the point where you just remember everything after this life.
Yeah.
I'm just speaking about the different perspectives on it. I don't know which one it is, but this is some of the things that people build on.
Yeah, that's what Buddhism and Hinduism teaches.
Yeah, right.
Basically, you got to satisfy your dharma or your karmic debt from the previous life, but you don't remember those things. So, but once you do satisfy that, then you can go into samadhi, or you go through nirvana, samadhi, and you go into nirvana, and now you are an enlightened being with the Buddha mind, or the Krishna mind, and now you remember everything and you know everything. But at the end of the day, there's no evidence of none of that.
Right, but one thing I feel like it is evidence of is energy. That's one thing I feel like I know without a doubt is that energy always will be.
Yeah, that's agreeable.
I'm 42, I don't feel the same way I did when I was 18. So I feel like in those years, I feel like I have shifted into many different states of consciousness from that point into now.
And that's what makes you Ron today, and you not Ron from 20 years ago, because you've had different experiences in your life which have created you into who you are right now at this moment. And tomorrow you're going to be slightly different because you're going to have some experiences today, right? But this is why I have the idea that you could not have been Ron in the past, because Ron in the past, in the previous life, didn't have any of the experiences that Ron in this life. Because your experiences make up about 75% of who you are. Right. So without your current experiences, you're not Ron from the past, even though I think what you're saying is that you are still the energy from the past, but you're not the same consciousness of the past.
Right. Or basically what you're saying is it would be a different awareness.
Yes. You can't possibly have the same awareness you have now in the previous life because you didn't have the experiences that you have now.
Right.
So you have to be, so your consciousness will be a new consciousness because it would have different information than it had in a past life. Different experiences, different knowledge base, you know, shit, not being disrespectful or nothing, but you could have been a woman 200 years ago in Siberia. A 200-year-old woman in Siberia is not going to be the same run as you are right now.
Right. Which that's another belief system that people have, that we experience many different lives and different genders.
Yeah, Buddha claimed that he experienced 10,000 lives. And then it was the realization of those 10,000 lives and going under the Bodhi tree and then going through samsara. He then elevated to the Buddha consciousness, which now he remembers everything, knows everything, and is living in this higher state with full knowledge of all that life, right? That's what is claimed in the main, what is claimed by the main Buddha. Now, of course, some other Buddhas come in and write different stuff later on, but that's what's claimed by the main Buddha, right? There's a similar thing in Hinduism where you have that same experience.
So I have a question for you.
Uh-huh.
I ain't trying to go too far out there in the water. I just wanted to know, I heard you speak about some things, I think, on YouTube. How do you feel about like indigenous cultures, especially tribes like the Dogon? How do you feel like they knew about, you know, different star systems that can't be seen with our two physical eyes, and modern astronomers had to build, you know, high-powered telescopes to see something that they knew about already?
Right. Honestly, I don't know.
Strange mystery, right?
It's
not just I study other indigenous cultures that have similarities. Like when you study the Dogon, they said that they had ancestors that came from what modern astronomers call Sirius. They call it Patolo, Nyantolo, and Imbiatolo, which is a trinary star system. But the catch is they got ancient maps of the stars that match modern day astronomers' maps, and it also corresponds with the Hopi Indian. They pay homage. They call it the Great Star Kachina, and they pay homage to the same star system like the Dogon do. So they have similar traditions. So it's kind of, and they in two different parts of the world.
I'm with you. I mean, one option could be that the night sky was so much more clearer at the time frame that their ancestors told them that information. You understand what I'm saying? Like when they told the colonizers who came there this information, the night sky couldn't produce what could produce that. But maybe 15,000 years prior or 5,000 years prior, the night sky was able to produce that. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
Right? Because as man started burning and burning more fires and all this kind of stuff, it's a possibility. We can't, it's hard to determine that. The other possibility is what they say, is that the Namo came and the Nomos came and told them and showed them and so on and so forth. And that's what they, yeah.
Really stand on that. But I'm saying it's just so fascinating because it's not just the Dogons, it's other cultures that claim similar information. Like it was another tribe in the Chinese culture called the Drupas. And the Drupas claim that they had these ancestors that came from a star system called Zeta Reticulum, which that recently Zeta Reticulum has been discovered in 2012, I believe.
Yeah.
Which corresponds to a UFO abduction case with Betty and Barney Hill. I don't know if you ever heard of that. Betty and Barney Hill, back in the 1960s, I believe, they was an interracial couple from New Hampshire somewhere. They said they was on a back road. They saw a UFO. It abducted them, and under hypnosis, the lady was able to remember a star system that the alien showed her. And that same star system has recently been discovered called Zeta Reticulum.
Yeah.
So
there's some mysteries out there, and I think, isn't it so, like one of the things, and you know, the Hopi Indians, they call them the sky people, but I could be wrong on this one, but you know, the Dogons also told them that there were planets that was going around Sirius B, and I think we recently discovered that there are a planetary system around Sirius B, and that one of the planets is in the habitable zone of the smaller star Sirius B.
Right.
Of course, there's a lot more research we got to find out about that, but the fact that they said that is very intriguing, interesting, because it is the thing of how would they have known
Right.
without somebody.
The problem I have with all this, especially with modern day astronomers, it's like they're trying to renege. It's like they're trying to reverse it now. They're trying to take credit for this and sit and claim that they taught these people that. That's what they're trying to say now.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Regardless of what they were saying like 20, 30, 40 years ago, maybe even close to 100 years ago when they first learned about them. Nowadays, they're trying to say, oh, this is because we discovered these things and went and told the Dogon about them. That's what I hear people saying now about this.
I haven't heard anybody say that one. I've heard people just put it. The astronomers that I've listened to, they have just put it in the same category of we just don't know how the Dogons knew this shit.
Yeah. Well, one video I was watching, the host of the video, he said the only explanation is that they just guessed all this stuff.
You know, seeing Sirius A and Sirius B, I can see a pathway that maybe at a time frame they could see that. Seeing planetary bodies around Sirius B, ain't no way in hell they saw that, you know, without some type of telescope. So I don't know. I would love to time travel back 10,000 years ago and see what they were seeing and talk to them damn people. But that's going to be one of those mysteries unless we find out that there is life on one of those planets around Sirius B, then it's going to be that mystery. And for me, in order for someone to travel from Sirius B to Earth, they got to have either they had a generational ship, or these jokers knew how to fold space, or there's a wormhole or some type of gateway that allows them to travel faster than light speed without burning the hell up, because there is friction in space. We just don't have the technology to know.
Right.
And hold on,
principalities in higher places know things that they just not revealing to us. That's the only thing I can really say about that. Principalities in higher places.
What I would call those principalities aliens. I wouldn't call them. What would you call them?
I guess our government.
Oh, you're talking about them jokers?
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, of course, there are things that the government knows that we're not telling everybody. Hell, even when I was in government, there was shit that we knew, and it's still things I know right now that y'all don't know. But
right.
So I don't know how deep that rabbit hole goes. I'm pretty sure it's deep as hell. It's way deeper than anything that I know about. I can tell you that.
Right.
Yeah. And thank you, Growing Everything, for the roses. I always like to thank people.
Right. Yeah, I'm about to get off here, man. I just want to
go
ahead and chat for a second. But thanks for letting me come up.
No, I appreciate it, and thank you for being patient.
Big fan of your page, especially on YouTube and all that. That's where I first saw you at.
Okay, cool. Appreciate it.
I just happened to see you on here one day, and I started following you, and I saw that you be going live. So.
Yep, every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. I'm always late. All right. But I appreciate you, Ron. Thanks. Yeah, there's a lot of mysteries out there we don't know about. One day, I hope to live long enough to find out at least some more of them. Need to find some more of these mysteries. It's probably stuff even the military doesn't know. Oh, it's most certainly things that the military don't know. They ain't telling us everything. There's probably a few people in the military who know some of the deeper shit. Well, there are people in the military who do know deeper things. You know, if I would have, my level of shit is probably like right now. See if I can make it smaller. Like about right there. I'm pretty sure there's some levels to this shit that we don't know. But I do understand the concept of we are energy, but we still have to discover this consciousness and what the hell it really is, how it functions, and so on and so forth. And hopefully in my lifetime, we can make some great strides in the discovery of such. I don't think, every thought comes from the brain. You got your emotions, but then you got your gut feelings and all this kind of stuff. So still trying to figure it out. And unlike religious people, it's easy to say, I don't know yet. Said my shit meter is too high. I'm telling you, back in the day, I probably knew about this much of government shit, worldwide stuff that y'all didn't know. About that much. Compared to what just compared to what I know that other people would have had access to. Meaning that I don't know what they had in there, but I knew way more shit than I knew. Right? So yeah. They ain't gonna tell. You still don't. No. Compared to the depths of things that happen on this planet, you're right, Marion. In comparison, I don't know anything. Right? There are secrets on top of secrets on top of secrets on top of secrets of things that I have no clue to. But I know more than you. I'll just bullshit. I mean, I do know more shit that's happened. But most of my stuff is old now. Yeah, most of it be old. But so nobody wants to talk about why. This is the second day in a row that nobody wants to talk about my damn subject matter. Now I done went over it though. I thought I would get some Christian who would come in here and talk about Acts 8, but I went ahead and gave you guys the information about Acts 8. Acts 8 is in nowhere, shape, or form talking about the Ethiopia that wrote or created their version of Christianity. But so many people want to hinge on it. Now, what's the psychology of that? The psychology is that they have been so ingrained with this religion, indoctrinated into it, that they still want to hold on to Christianity. But because they don't want to seem like they're still under the colonizers' version of Christianity, then they jump to this version, this Ethiopian version, this book, and claim that to be truth of Christianity being in Africa before it was in Rome. And here's the fallacy in that. Christianity was in Rome before it was in Ethiopia, right? Before it was in Aksum, it was already in Rome. The same time frame that Christianity went into Egypt, it went into Europe, right? So even when they claim that Ethiopia went to Africa, understand you're only talking about Egypt and Kush. You're not talking about West Africa, Central Africa, Southeast, Southern Africa, Southwest Africa. You're not talking about the overwhelming majority of Africa. You're just talking about one little place, Egypt, Kush. That's about it. And so Christianity was definitely in Rome before it ever got to the West African heritage that the overwhelming majority of people who are in the diaspora right now, it was there before they got their version of Christianity, which is the European Romanized version of Christianity, right? Did it start like in Anatolia, Rome first? Yeah, so even in Anatolia will be Turkey, but Turkey was controlled by Rome. So you're right. First century, second century spread of Christianity went all throughout the Roman Empire. So even though it hadn't become the state religion of Rome yet, you still have, you have until about around 380, 382, 381 when it becomes the state religion. It still was in it started in the Levant, and then it migrated throughout the Roman Empire. So it was in Rome before it was in, or in around the same time that it went to Egypt. but it in no way, shape, or form was in the overwhelming majority of Africa. That's like somebody took one little hit of salt in your food and saying, oh, all the food is salty. Now, all the food is not salty. You just got a little bit on one little part. That's it. And it's a very minor part that the overwhelming majority of the time that I eat this food, I'm not going to taste the salt. I'm only going to taste the salt when I eat this one little small part. It is hundreds, well, it's over 1,000 years later before somebody came in and just put salt all over the goddamn food. So every version of Christianity that the overwhelming majority of people of color practice is Roman style Christianity. And nobody even knows what was going on. Well, I ain't gonna say we don't know. The Christianity in the first century was a freaking hodgepodge. There were so many variations of Christianity in first century, second century, third century. It's not until the end of the fourth century that you start getting Christianity isolated into one primary form of Christianity. Before that, just like you got various, 42,000 variations of Christianity today, you had hundreds, you most likely had, I ain't gonna say it was 42,000 versions back then, but you probably had a good couple of hundred versions of Christianity by the time you get to the Council of Nicaea or Emperor Theodosius making Christianity the religion of Rome, before King Azana makes Christianity the state religion of Ethiopia. You have at least a couple of hundred, if not a couple of hundred different versions of Christianity that was going. So when they say that we have the right version of Christianity or the original version of Christianity, there is no way of knowing what was the original version or who was teaching the right version of Christianity. You wouldn't be able to identify that. It's a virtual impossibility. The Jesus character never wrote anything. There's not one writing. There's no gospel of Jesus. There's no epistles of Jesus. Didn't write a thing. Everything is written by someone else, and nothing is written by someone who was standing right there. And here's the funny part about that. Even if somebody was standing right there, you're gonna have, if you got 12 jokers, you're gonna have 12 different versions. Wasn't the Eastern Orthodox Church the first what? The first version of Christianity? No. You do not have the Eastern are you talking about the Armenian version or the Ethiopian version? But in either case, you don't have either one of those until the 4th century. None of those are established until the 4th century. They might have had some type of growth. They would have had some type of growth period in the Armenian version of it. But the Ethiopian version, we know exactly when theirs started and how it started. The Armenian version was like some cobbled up churches in the late 3rd century that then joined together during that late 3rd century and then became unified at the end of around the end of the 3rd century, and then became the state religion and established their own canon. But that didn't happen to 301. If we're talking about the Armenian or Eastern Orthodox, that was 301. So you still got a couple of hundred years. I'm gonna start shit with my mom at Christmas dinner with this. Just don't mention my name. Just don't have your mom coming to my house. There is no God except Allah. No, there are hundreds of gods, thousands of gods. There are thousands of gods outside of Allah. There is just no God. There's only Allah for you. Hell, we can make up a God right now. you talking about the okay, I thought the Byzantine Church, Orthodox Eastern is what you're talking about. Was that the first church? No, I wouldn't say that was the first church. You probably your first Christian churches would have been house churches in and around Jerusalem, in and around Judea itself would have been your first churches. Those would have been your first house churches that would have been started. You got house churches that were in Ephesus. So the house churches would have been the first churches. Now, unless you're saying like, you know how they do civilization, there's they have a requirement. You got to be at this level to be determined to be a civilization. Although there were many villages and towns and groupings of people below that, you had a bunch of smaller house churches long before you had the Byzantine Eastern Orthodox Church. But if you're talking about major established churches, it would be in that category, but you probably had your churches you still probably had your churches in Jerusalem and Ephesus rather, and Corinth before that. Let's see, when did the Byzantine Eastern Orthodox Church formalize? And that's the part about it. Like when you look at these church histories, you can get a date, but that's not telling you how they grew up, how they came about. So for them in their church history, what they claim is that they were founded by Jesus Christ, formally established in 33 CE on the day of Pentecost. However, it officially separated from the Western Roman Catholic Church in 1054 in an event called the Great Schism. So basically, the Eastern Orthodox Church, the Byzantine Eastern Orthodox Church, was nothing more than the Roman Catholic Church, and then they separated in 1054 and claimed that their origin was established by Jesus. So pretty much rewriting and creating their own histories. But archaeology shows us that there were house churches in that first century, in cities like Jerusalem, Antioch, Corinth, so in Alexandria. So the implication that Christianity was born in Africa, Ethiopia, is wrong. Is that correct? Yeah, it's wrong as hell. That is correct. It was not born in Ethiopia at all. Christianity didn't come to what we would call Ethiopia until 330 CE. That is when it became known to the Oxamites. It would have become earlier. Would it have become known to the Cushite people? Sure. Through the Egyptians? Yeah. Because it pretty much was part of the Roman Empire or right next door to it? Yeah. But even those Cushite people of Monroe were conquered later by the Aksum, the people of Aksum. But the people of, and that wasn't until 520. And that is where the Candace would have been located. But it didn't come to Ethiopia, in the lands that we would call Ethiopia, until 330. So no, Christianity was not originally was not born in Africa at all. It was born in Jerusalem, in the Middle East, what we call the Middle East, in the Levant. So, but of course, these people will rewrite their histories. That whole Solomon Sheba story is a rewriting of history. That Ethiopia, the people of Ethiopia would people like Haile Selassie decided to rewrite it and make it part of their history. And there's absolutely no archaeological evidence that demonstrates Judaism in Ethiopia during the time frame of Solomon and any other time frame up in the 1st century, 2nd century, 3rd, 4th, 5th. There's no there's no Judaism going on there that's notable. There might have been a couple, you know, a town of 30 people who were practicing some form of Judaism, but the whole Solomon Sheba story is just some concocted up ass love story. But because of that made up story, they claim that they have the Ark of the Covenant, that Menelik I, his boys stole it. Well, in one version of the story, Menelik I's boys stole, his friends stole it, and it flew across on a magic carpet ride. In another version of the story, Solomon offered it to him and he took it. So in the version of the story where his friends stole it, Menelik said no, but his boys took it. And in the other version, Menelik said yes, and then it just was given. And then this little church claims that they have it, that they have the Ark of the Covenant. Yet they won't let nobody see it. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. The easiest way to prove that your story is correct is to say, here's the Ark of the Covenant. And if the Ark of the Covenant got the power that they claim it has in the Bible, then you shouldn't be worried about somebody stealing it, taking it, even though it did get taken in the one of those stories in Kings, one of those King stories. I think it did get taken. But even when it was taken, it defeated the god Dagon and was returned back. So in today's world, if you had the Ark of the Covenant, and that would be the biggest flex for Ethiopia, right? You'd be able to flex like a champ, but they don't have it. How do you date all of this? We know what land masses the Oxium had at different time frames. We know archaeology demonstrates when the Cushites were calling themselves Candace. It had the title Candace, had when they were in control of the area that we now call North Sudan, the northern parts of Sudan. We got the records of when, and you can utilize the records of when the Romans fought against these different people, the records of when the Oxium Empire grew and fought and conquered other people, other nations. So it's just putting all the records together of who conquered who and when. Oh, I see. You don't know how to have an educated conversation since you have to resort to some type of profanity. No, I just kidding. Profanity is not a problem, but the name calling part is. So Wagi, if you don't know how to have a conversation without name calling, then you can be kicked all the hell out. So, but that's the quickest way to also get ignored. See, I was giving you some attention, but then you don't know how to handle it. Childish. But are there any other questions? Because I do have to call the VA before my wife get mad at me. Respect. He said, just to make sure everybody see what he said, he said, I'll simmer down. Respect. Any other questions or thoughts? Anybody else want to come on and state their opinions and thoughts or facts or whatever you got? Reminder, I will be tomorrow night, 7 p.m. East Central Standard Time Frame, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time Frame. I will be on Truth Wanted. It's only an hour and a half, so make sure you are on time. I will definitely be on time because it's somebody else's show, so I have to be on time. Plus, I have to be on with them an hour before we even start, so I will definitely be on time with Truth Wanted tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time Frame. So I look forward to seeing you guys there. on that channel. December 14th, I'm doing a webinar on 9 businesses you need to start in 2026, because y'all need to get your money up. Everybody needs to get their money up. The things that you're going to be facing over, I mean, it's always, I ain't gonna say over the next 4 years or 3 years and all that kind of stuff. Just what you have to deal with on a daily basis, no matter who is in government, who is in charge. I don't really give two shits about that as far as getting your money up. So you need to get your money up. You need to get the person who said that life won't buy, that money can't buy you happiness. That was a rich person tricking the shit out of some poor people. Because the majority of happiness that you have in your life, you had to pay for it. If you're happy that you live in a house or you got a roof over your head, you had to pay. You're happy with your clothes, you had to pay for it. You're happy with your car, you had to pay for it. So every goddamn thing, you had to pay for it. Yeah, December 14th, that's what that webinar is going to be about. It is, you can find the link in the description of this video on YouTube. You can find it in the first comment on Facebook. And I'll post the link again here for that webinar, because you don't want to miss it. Y'all, some of y'all were crying about missing my Financially on Fire one that I did back in the spring. It'll come back around, but you gotta wait for it. But you need to get your money right, and then don't give it to a pastor. You give it to a pastor, your money gonna be gone. And then you're gonna be broke. Like me and Ron was saying, the check ain't coming in the mail just because you sit up there and you think about it. Now you gotta put some action behind this shit. You ain't put no action behind it, ain't shit gonna happen for you. All things require action. All things require action. So December 14th, that webinar will be going on, and like I said, Friday, tomorrow, I'll be on Truth Wanted. It'll be interesting being a co-host on a show. I haven't co-hosted on anyone's show since 2017 was the last time when I was on Kevin Wesley's shows. So it's been a minute since I co-hosted and not hosted. So I gotta get my mind right for it. Yeah, so and as a reminder, if we are doing a cruise next year, October 31st, leaving out of New Orleans, a 5-day cruise. We're gonna go to Chichen Itza. We're gonna take the excursion to Cenote, Chichen Itza, go see one of the pyramids down in Mexico on the Yucatan Peninsula. I bought my ticket yesterday evening. Oh, cool. Yeah. Sharon said she bought her ticket yesterday evening. But yep, we're gonna be taking that cruise, Chichen Itza. And on that cruise, we're gonna have that, like the days we're out at sea is when we'll have like a scheduled time to meet up and talk. So we'll be on the boat, and I love cruises because you ain't gotta do shit. You ain't gotta do a thing. Just get on that joint and just enjoy yourself. I don't even know what your comment is referring to, Out of Babylon. Yeah, Truth Wanted. That's the name of the show I'll be on tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time frame. It's Truth Wanted. That is the exact way to spell it. I wonder. Yeah. So, well, I guess that's about it. Yeah, it'll be live, Jennifer. It's a live show. It's a live call-in show on Truth Wanted. You actually have to use your phone, I guess. But yeah, it's a live call-in show. It is the largest atheist show. So yeah. Is there a link to register for the cruise? No, there's not a link. If you go to my Facebook page at Coach Renz 33 on my Facebook page, I got a featured comment. I mean, featured post rather, and it has all the information as to what boat, you know, and which excursion, if you choose to go on that excursion with us, to take. I didn't block off cabins and no shit like that. I'm gonna be honest, I don't trust y'all, so I ain't block off cabins. So Sherry is asking, have I booked the excursion myself? Based on our budget right now, we're going to book it January. January, we'll book that excursion. But we're definitely going to book that excursion. For the one that is Cenote, which also goes to Chichen Itza, because the Cenote one also gets you a buffet, because it's an all-day thing. It's like 7 hours. It's like a 7 hour, 7 hour day, right? So we're gonna book it. We're gonna book the excursion in January, mainly because we got some travel plans for December for this month. And you got to book, when you book your excursion, you got to pay for the whole thing, and I got to pay for me, and we have to pay for both of us. We ain't just by ourselves. And you have time to book excursions. Excursions usually are some of the last things that are booked on cruises. I don't know why Babylon is talking about marriage. Did I say anything about marriages today? But yeah, so go to my Facebook page. You'll see the link, well, not the link, you'll see the post, and it'll tell you all the information so that you can call whoever books your cruises, and you'll be able to, or we just went to Carnival directly and booked the cruise, and we are doing the payment plan, the 9-month payment plan, just to make it easy so you can just set it and forget it. And then next month we'll book the excursion for Cenote. And so that you'll have confidence, Sherry, I'll make sure you know when I book it. When are you in Baton Rouge and New Orleans stopping dates? So we'll be in New Orleans. We'll be in New Orleans on the 21st of December, overnight. Don't know what part of New Orleans we're going to be in yet, because my wife hasn't booked the hotel. But we'll be overnight in New Orleans on the 21st of December. Then we'll be in Atlanta on the 22nd, but that's just going to be overnight. Then we'll be in, I got to do it this way in order to get the days right. 22nd, we'll be in Atlanta. 23rd will be, 21st. 22nd in Atlanta. Oh, hold on. So 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th. Oh, hell no. We might be in Atlanta 22nd and 23rd. I don't know how we're doing it. Be in Atlanta 21st. We figured this shit out. New Orleans 21st, 22nd, we're in Atlanta. Oh yeah, 23rd, we drive to Wilmington, North Carolina. We'll be there the 24th, 25th, 26th, we drive back to Atlanta. And so we're there for 26th, 27th, 28th. Then I think Baton Rouge 29th. It's either 29th or the 30th. I think it's the 29th we'll be in Baton Rouge. It's either the 29th or the 30th we'll be in Baton Rouge. And then back home on either the 30th. Yeah, we'll be back. Yeah, 29th we'll be in Baton Rouge, because then we want to be back here New Year's Eve. That's the 30th. Got it. So that's the travel plans. But I'll, as we're traveling, I'll be able to let you know. I ain't gonna lie. We can, me and that young lady will be like, well, let's stay an extra day. Okay, so you mentioned all this marriage stuff because I talked about money. Again, you mentioned money. I know most do not understand marriage, but money is not it. Again, what is, let's figure out why we are dying. I believe should be our greater focus. Well, you're gonna die. Your body is gonna die. You ain't gonna stop that for a while. We are way away from technology to stop that, bro. I don't know why mentioning money has anything to do with marriage, other than the fact that getting married is going to cost you more money. When getting married should grant you more money, but people don't know what the fuck they doing when they get married. They get married and they marry each other physically, but they sure hell don't marry each other financially. And they marry be off. That's why most marriages end because of financial reasons or sex reasons. That man said death is either natural or a curse. It's natural, bro. Death is not a curse. Okay, I'm not having that conversation. I'm going to get off here. So I appreciate you guys, and I thank everybody for being subscription holders, subscribers, for being members. Thank you very much. Those who have donated to the channel through Cash App or give gifts and super chats, I greatly appreciate it. Maybe we'll have a conversation about marriage next week, as far as like, I don't know what part of it. Thank you for the crown. Appreciate that. I probably don't want to talk about it from that perspective, other than the fact that can you? Oh, I haven't done that one in a while. Can you be married to a Christian and you're not? Well, somebody said that death is a curse. That's just dumb. Death is not a curse. Only if you're looking at it from the Bible is death a curse. Anyway, I appreciate you guys. I got to call the VA so I can be on hold for like 2 hours. So y'all have a great day, and always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations. And I hope to make some more videos today, but it depends on how long I'm on hold with the VA. So deuces.